Take these out of my ear real quick. All right, man. So I just came through the chat with y'all. I ain't seen y'all in a minute. Ain't talked to nobody in a minute. There's reasons behind that. I've been fucking cooling. I spent the whole weekend sleeping because I nearly almost missed the opportunity of paying attention to my health. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest with you, hold on one second. I'm sharing this as I'm talking to y'all. To be honest with you, like, I had to share that real quick, let everybody know I'm live. I'm back out here on these internet streets. Anyway, man, I've been chilling for a minute because I needed to take care of my health. I needed to make sure I ate. I had to make sure I got things together, things like that. So I made sure I did that. So Thursday, I went to karaoke. And then Friday, I stayed in the house and I watched the movie. I watched the new Hellraiser, which absolutely sucked. I fell asleep on it. Then Saturday night, what did I do? Oh, I played games on my phone. I watched another movie. And then I just moved away from the social media, period. I needed a break. I really did. Like, social media has gotten like boring now. Like, everybody's talking about the same old topics or whatever. What everybody talking about right now? Master P and his son, as if they know them. You know, if it ain't that, it's everybody talking about Gunna. If it ain't that, it's everybody talking about, like, nobody's unique on here. You know what I mean? And so I had to set the precedence myself or whatever. And I'm at the same time, you know, I do little social experiments on my page all the time. Some people pick up on it, some people don't. As far as like the trajectory and what people are, you know, kind of attuned to or whatever. And I've seen things like, I saw people paying more attention to the post I put up about Megan Thee Stallion than people were actually paying attention to what I was saying about Mutulu Shakur, who had just been released from prison. That's Tupac's stepfather. You know what I mean? The man is 72 years old. He has cancer. And it was like nobody gave a, just didn't care. In fact, I'll even go as far as to say this. When I mentioned about Mutulu Shakur, and I want to do something a little bit more in depth about Mutulu, because Mutulu is actually, you know, he's dying of cancer right now. And it's terminal cancer. He's 72 years old. Many of the political prisoners before, whether they be with the Black Panther Party or other parties, the Move Party out of Philadelphia and a couple of other ones, you know, even the I'll go as far as to say even the Nation of Islam, you know, and their travesties they went through over time concerning not only just Malcolm, but also concerning Farrakhan as well. You know, Mutulu Shakur, and I'm going to speak on him right now because so many won't. Mutulu Shakur is a man that should be paid homage to. This is a man that literally went out of his way during the time period and put his life on the line, put his freedom on the line and all that stuff for the people. And the same thing goes for, you know, Miss Shakur. I ain't gonna say her name for various reasons, but another woman hooked to the Shakur family that some say may or may not be in Cuba right now. Tú sabes, la libre la gente. So I don't know. She may or she may not. Fact remains, these are women and men who fought for real. And if you don't know what Miss Shakur, I'm gonna call her that. Miss Shakur had to flee to Cuba. I'm just plugging something up. Give me 1 second, guys. If you don't know why she had to flee to Cuba, suspectively, it's because they were trying to liberate a portion of Africa at the time, monetarily. They got caught up in a bank robbery, so they say, and the rest is history. Mutulu was convicted of something similar. It was a robbery. 2 police officers were shot and killed, or I believe 2 of them. And there's history. If y'all wonder why I'm looking to the side, it's because the sun is in my face right now. The point I'm getting at is this. I didn't see anybody celebrate. I didn't see anybody mention. I didn't see anybody talk about. I didn't see anybody concerned about Mutulu Shakur and the sacrifice this man made. See, when we talk about modern day, and I told you this is going to be a little bit of everywhere because I got a little catching up to do, so y'all sit with me. When we talk about Mutulu Shakur, people from his ilk or his day, We're talking about people that literally put their lives on the line and were willing to take the sacrifices and the results of what their decisions were. And in this case, and many other cases, there was prison. And we just now, 20, 30, 40 years later, in some cases, these men that made statements politically and otherwise, historically, some would say, we now just forget these men and act like they did nothing. At the very least, you would think they would homage this man just because, let alone, he was Tupac's stepfather. But no. You heard instead everybody talk about Gunna, everything that happened personally with Master P and his son, and numerous other things that had no type of deity or any type of real foundation within them. You know what I mean? When you're talking about Master P and his son, that's something personal. When you're talking about Gunna and their YSL indictment, that's something personal. I'm not going to do that time with him. And those stories trumped Mutulu Shakur. And I'm really upset about that because these are the same people, many of them, anytime a travesty happens with the Black or Latin community where police officers involved or a crooked judge or something like that, these are the very same people that will be back up on the fucking YouTube here and they will be like, it's a travesty. It's terrible. Now, I'm not here to condemn anybody or point fingers at anybody, but what I'm saying is, it's what y'all paying attention to that's got me concerned. You guys are so much living in a world that is based on criminality. So much of a world that's based on, listen, I was a real gangster. A real gangster. You know what I mean? I rode with about 30 guys. It's noted and documented here in the state of Connecticut and New York and Jersey. We were the real deal. We probably made, at very least, between $400,000 to $1.2 million a year. That's the truth. And prices were very different then. Money was very different then. The regularity of getting money was very different then. This is 2000, not even 2000. This is like 98, 99 through 2001. So it was very different, or it was very different money out there. You know what I mean? We used to have a phrase, it's money outside. I remember that one well. Shout out to my crew, NFC, Mount Vernon, Harlem, Queens, BX. Everybody did their time. There's about 30 of us. We had matching jackets, everything. That's the thing here in New York. Y'all give me a second, I'm trying to light this cigarette. I saw so many people celebrating what was going on with dysfunction instead of celebrating a freedom fighter, a political prisoner, a man that should be paid homage to. The stepfather, Tupac, came home at 72 years old and is only predicted to have a couple months to live because he has terminal cancer. And not one motherfucker had one thing to say about that. Nobody was screaming out the political injustices and all that stuff that y'all regularly talk about. Nah, nobody said nothing. And if you go right now and take a search, give me 1 second, guys. If you go right now and take a search and look up the day that he was released, which was the 16th, you will not see one story from your favorite blogger about what happened to this man. Not one story. You will not see one story. You might see some bloggers that you've never heard of, but all your favorite bloggers, they didn't even mention it. They're not going to mention it. You know why? Because it doesn't bring Cashapp to the channel. It doesn't bring traffic to the channel, or whatever the case may be, based off the current atmosphere that we have right now, where it's pile on to everybody, hate everybody, mean everybody, queen everybody, and be totally cruel to everybody. That is the mantra nowadays with a lot of people. I've time after time now seen people of color piling onto their own people online, and the shit is kind of sickening nowadays. It's gotten so sickening that other people are talking about it now. And the other people that are talking about it now, they're looking at it like, yo, you know what? You got a point there. Whether it's financially shaming someone, whether it's piling on because of the latest story like they did with Kanye. I told y'all that a year ago. I said, yo, listen, these rappers and these guys that you think are just so, you know, pure and so 100 or whatever the case may be, just take a look at how they did with me. And I worked around niggas for 17 years. You know what I'm saying? Some of these guys only got a year in, 2 years in, a couple years in. But I want to say not in the ilk of Kanye, but in the stream of Kanye. I've been around before Kanye was around. You know what I'm saying? Where he was still just producing. So I'll say like this, man. In this direction, wherever y'all are going, you understand what I'm saying? I mean this specifically to the Black and Latin community, because it seems like dysfunction is the way of life, the way of stories. This internet has become one of the worst vessels in the world as far as the Black and Latin community is concerned, because of this reason right here and this reason alone. Y'all use the outlet to pile onto each other and shame each other. Y'all use the outlet, because that's what you were doing, even with the Masterpiece story, even with the story about Gunna or whatever the case may be. I know the mantra, hey, he lost it all, ha, 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 ha. Now he's like us. Now he's like us. That's a crab in a bucket mentality. When it comes to this other guy, same thing, Master P and his son. Ah, ha, ha, they arguing, ah, ha, ha, P ain't got that much money as we thought he did, ha, 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 ha. Ha, 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 ha. Let's roll with the story, let's shame him. You make yourself perception-wise look to your, not to your own people, but to people that are outside your culture as complete idiots and fools. I'll even go a step further. The internet has now allowed for certain white folks to look upon you as cowards. I just had an old white man just try to try me just a few minutes ago. I'm gonna tell you about that story in a minute. He would have never done that, not even 4-5 years ago. 4-5 years ago, I would have dropped him right then and there where he was standing at. You understand? It's impeccable to me how Blacks and Latins use the internet now. Everybody, for one, if you haven't paid attention, everybody's a hip-hop blogger. Have you not noticed that? Everybody's a hip-hop blogger. That's one. You know, I got the latest on hip-hop. I got the latest. Name one of these motherfuckers. Most of them have ever been in the hip-hop industry a day in their life, where I have. The other situation is this. You have a lot of people, nowadays specifically, to take a look at certain elements in life, and they say to themselves, okay, I'm lacking here, or I'm lacking there. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get on the internet, and I'm gonna start making fun of people's situations that have more than me. This is another tactic of the hip-hop blogger. See, the hip-hop blogger ain't nothing but the chick that was in pink rollers in the nail salon and the beauty salon back in the day. Many of y'all old enough to understand that, especially if you're about 25, 30 years old. That's who the modern day vlogger is. The modern day vlogger is a person who used to be sitting outside the liquor store and he'd be like, yo, you know what I heard? The modern day vlogger is a motherfucker that would be at the barbecue or the family reunion once upon a time. Do they still have those anymore? He would be that person there and be like, you know what I heard about Aunt Cheryl? You heard I heard about Uncle Rod? These are all the tenets of what make up the hip-hop blogger. The hip-hop blogger is someone who is looking from the outside in. You get what I'm saying here? The hip-hop blogger is someone that's looking from the outside in. And what they're doing is they're trying to give their own brand, their own version of what they think is going on in the hip-hop community. The rules, the exceptions, the contractual agreements, and in a lot of cases, a unity that goes on in the hip-hop community, which many of y'all don't ever mention about because you've never been present to mention about it. Now, I'm not sitting here saying to you that there's no problems in the hip-hop community. I'm not sitting here telling you that there's no problems in the Black community as well, because we all know that's not true. But what I will say is this, you emphatically press it more on when you have certain situations where you have the advantage because of all your followers. I've got, 5-digit followers now, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I try not to use my outlet, I'm gonna speak for myself. I try not to use my outlet to promote to people certain things because I've done certain things, you understand? And when you've done certain things and you've harmed people and things like that before or whatever, and I mean, maybe not intentionally, but whatever the case may be, when you've done things like that, it is my advantage, it is my position to make sure that you guys don't get the same message. Now, if you want an example of that, I'll give you one perfectly here. I remember back a year ago, I did a live, and at that time it was like 37 rappers who had passed away, right? 37. I don't know 37 guys when I was in the streets that passed away. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know 37 guys when and when I tell you top tiers, what it was news articles about us. You understand what I'm saying? I made the front page of the paper. You know what I mean? I had an article. I didn't have like, you know, a little mention or something like. I had a fucking article. Okay, this is before I got into the music industry and all that shit. But I had an article, and some of the guys that we were with were charged as an organization. So I know this shit in the depths of it. You understand what I'm saying? I don't come from that background. I had some friends I went to school, or what, not even went to school with, but I had some friends I had hung around with. He came around with about $2 grand in his pocket. I said, yo, where you got that from? Story continues, you know what I mean? So yeah, I know the gist of it, whatever, even though it was a very long time ago or whatever, but I can always say and not hold my head high on it or whatever, but I'm searchable. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of these guys, they do time and all that stuff or whatever. You ain't even do nothing memorable. You was a flunky. You don't want to admit it, but that's what you were. You were a pawn. Well, what I consider is this. These hip-hop bloggers, in somehow or another, in some fashion or another, are starting to facilitate, and I mean facilitate, a lot of these problems that are going on. There's a lot of specific ones that I'm not going to name right here and right now because there's no use in doing that, and I don't want to start no quarrels, beefs, or whatever, because that's not what I do here, and it would be contradictory to my message. And I, like I said, if y'all wonder why I'm looking to the sides, because the sun is directly in my face. But I gotta say this: for those vloggers like myself that have an excess of people that follow them. When I say an excess of people that follow them, I mean 5-digit numbers. 5-digit, you've got to be at least 10K or better, all right? If you ain't got at least 10,000 people following you, I'm not really, it's not necessarily I'm not listening to you. I'm looking at the effort you put in based on your uploads and what type of uploads you're putting up. That's one of the things I always do. If you want to go to somebody, I'm going to get back into the subject. If you want to go to somebody's page and find out what they're about quickly, because sometimes you can hear a lot, you can hear live, you can see an upload, and you'd be like, I like this guy or this girl, and I subscribe to them. And then later on, they just let me down. It was just that particular live, they were like that. You know what I mean? That's not their personality. So when I say that a lot of these vloggers are facilitating a lot of the beefs that you're seeing, only thing you got to do is look at some of your most popular characters here and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. Look at some of your most popular vloggers. I'm talking about the vloggers that got over 100,000, 1 million. Look at those guys and you'll find yourself the story of why a lot of the things go on. A lot of these vloggers, they not only promote the problems, but they push the problems. And when they push the problems, sometimes what happens is, a lot of times, these guys, they're not present after whatever happens. You understand what I'm saying? So, for example, guy gets killed, guy gets injured, guys promoted on drugs or whatever the case may be. Those vloggers are not there when the families are crying, when the families are burying. No, they'll cover the story for views. They'll put the cash app. I never put cash apps or any of that stuff up when it comes to somebody's death. I just don't. You know, I report on people passing and stuff like that, but you'll never find a Cash App or PayPal or any of that stuff under those under those uploads or lives. I just don't do it. So I look at these vlogs and I'm like, yo, what do y'all do? Do y'all want these kids to die? And I think that some of these guys are willing to be in the position where they're just like, you know what? I don't even care. I don't even care. That's why I think a lot of these guys are. I think they are in a mentality where they don't care. And I think they don't care so much that they're at the point now where it's like, yo, you know what? No matter what happens, I don't care because I got my paper. I got my contractual agreement renewed. I've got my new position at this job outside of the blogging that I already do. I've got this advertiser that's paying attention to me. I got these cash apps that's coming in. I got this, I got that, I got this, I got that. All these guys are going to say all this stuff because the pure simple fact, they want you to continue consuming them. They don't care about whatever the case may be. I just told you a few minutes ago, Matula Shakur, Tupac's stepfather, 72 years old, just got released from prison, and he's dying of terminal cancer, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. Not one person cared. And they won't care. They won't talk about it. They won't give you a palette of what is going on for even 30 minutes of their time. 30 minutes of their time. Now, they've got to talk about Gunna. They got to talk about Master P and his son that don't know nothing about Master P or his son, don't know nothing about the contractual agreements. They're guessing. I don't even know, and I was in the music industry. A lot of these vloggers are facilitating not only beefs, further gossip, they're allowing the people that listen to them to come in and be like, oh, you know what I heard? And there's certain vloggers that are responsible and they check their viewers or their callers and they say to them very quickly, listen, we don't know that. We don't know that. You won't have me in a lawsuit. I know one particular vlogger that does that all the time. Shout out to that veteran, sir. You cannot get on this YouTube, Facebook, and whatever coming in the future and say whatever and don't think you're going to be held responsible for it sooner or later. Sooner or later, they're going to hold you responsible. Now, you don't have to believe me, but I'm trying to tell you, they're going to incorporate some type of law in Congress. Some senator will come up with it. And what they'll do is, it'll probably come from the origins of a state, and it'll probably come from the origins of that some small town in America that you never even heard of. And what they'll do is they'll uniquely brand and unilaterally take this idea, and they'll make it national. They'll put it into legislation, and they'll make it national. And it'll take effect within 4 to 5 months after it being passed. And what's going to happen is a lot of these vloggers are going to start being held responsible for facilitating violence, facilitating different things that are going on. Now, you don't have to believe me, and I saw 2 people dropped out when I started mentioning that. You're probably 2 of the motherfuckers that consume shit like that. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You probably will say to yourself, oh, he ain't talking like, you know, he ain't talking jive, he ain't talking shucky ducky, you know what I mean? So I don't want to listen to him. I got you. I got you. But when the time comes, and I predicted a lot of things on here, and if you really paid attention to my channel, it's all come true. I told y'all a year ago that rappers only care about their investments. They only care about the residuals they get every year, monthly in some cases. And they will part like the Red Sea if you do something that's out of the norm, they don't agree with or interferes with business. And you've seen it time and time again. Now, you've seen it with Kanye West. You've heard other rappers mention it. You've seen veteran rappers die. Shout out and God bless Granddaddy IU. Shout out and God bless Granddaddy IU. Puff, you, Jay-Z, and a lot of y'all other ones that are veterans. I saw what's his name? What's this guy's name? LL Cool J. I saw him say something. Of course, Roxanne Shante, she said something. But a lot of these top tier CEOs that came up under Puff, you was a dancer. The first video you was in was with the one everybody was trying to call me at first, for the MC. Treat them like they want to be treated. Jodeci was in that. Puff was in that video dancing. Look up all the MC. Treat them like you want to. Treat them like you want to be. They want to be treated. Look that song up. Look that song up. Puff is in that video dancing. And I believe he had something to do with the production at the time because it was Uptown Records. So, you know, like you was out and about around the right time. I think Granddaddy IU was 54 years old or something like that. So this was someone that probably mentored your career as far as inspiration. And I ain't hear nobody say nothing. And if they did say something, it wasn't loud enough. I didn't hear Jay-Z speak loud enough. And what you don't understand is you're opening the door for them to do the same thing to you when it's your time. Doing the same thing. Oh, that's just Puff, forget him. One thing I can tell you about public image, if people hate you, don't ignore it too much. If the overwhelming amount of people, they don't like you for whatever reason or whatever, don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. Change some things about yourself. Make sure yourself is more profitable and approachable, you know, so that way you don't, that stigma doesn't stay with you. Does that make sense? Like that not only does that stigma not stay with you, but it doesn't affect you to the point where your reputation precedes itself. That's what I'm trying to say here, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, because of rumors and things people speculate or whatever, and the time that people put into calling this man, and I'm not necessarily taking up for Puff, but it's just reasonably to say that this happens to a lot of men of color. You want to revert, and first thing you say out of your mouth is the man is gay or whatever the case may be. I'm going to say in 17 years of me working there, nobody ever approached me on that, nothing like that. Nobody ever, I never saw anything that was like that. We was around Puff enough times, you know, in the office, on trips across the country, and I never saw nothing like that, ever, that I could recollect that would make me sus. I never saw anything out of that like from the artist. And I was around Red Cafe. I sat personally with Red Cafe and his crew at the Cleveland in Miami. So you understand what I'm saying? And it's what, 3 pools in there? You know what I mean? So shout out to the Clevelander. But G-Dep, Black Rob, Shine, Carl Thomas, trying to think, Dream, well, they girls, Kane. I can name numerous artists that I was around or had a part in their promotion or whatever. I never saw anything flake after that. Even when we moved to other labels and it had to be different distributors, and we did projects for those artists that were in that label that was a distributor at the time, whether it be Jesus Christ, Soulja Boy. I'm trying to think who else. It's been so many people. I probably effectively promoted probably well over, and I'm going to say without exaggeration, at least in 17 years, probably 80 something plus artists. Their campaigns ran for longer. You could do an artist campaign for like 6 or 7 months back then. You can't do it like that no more. And I'm talking about this is late 2000s to even mid 2000s. You know what I mean? The expectation of a record's performance or a single's performance or a whole album's performance is way less than it used to be. And the longevity of promoting that project really, to me, only extends maybe like, I don't know, let's say 4 to 5 weeks, versus before it would have went 4 to 5 months, even if it was a mid-tier artist. You understand what I'm saying? Meaning a breaking artist. It wouldn't have lasted so short as it does now. If you need an example of that, Drake dropped Honestly Nevermind, right? Which was a totally different album than the one he's got with 21 Savage right now, right? If you look at the time distance between those 2 albums being released, you'll understand exactly what I mean. He had already prepped the next album with him and 21 Savage or whatever the case may be. He couldn't come back to back with rap albums. It wouldn't have made any sense. So that's what I mean, the longevity of these things. Now back to the vloggers. The vloggers that we have now, all these hip-hop vloggers or whatever, are sending a message to your kids that they really don't care. They don't care what happens to your kids. They don't care if your kids really take seriously. And then when I say kids, I mean anybody that's 10 years old to 17. They don't care about any of that, all right? And you might think they do. They might pretend that they do, but they don't. And that's what a lot of them do. They get on camera and pretend. That's why I always talk plain spoken. A lot of people never liked up at when I worked up at the label, that I always taught plain spoken. But what I always found, and why I continued it, because I knew 2 things. One, I grew up with a lot of Italians and Greeks. And every time that I was around them, they used to homage my personality because I was so regular, normal, and normal spoken, plain spoken, if you want to say. When I got to the office, you have to realize I was working for a black company. A lot of those people, I now look back in retrospect, don't come from the same background as me. Not to say that I'm better than them, but we are different. The difference is I experienced their life, but they never experienced mine. You know what I mean? So that's the crazy thing about it. I mean on both plateaus. I mean growing up, and I mean as well as the industry and all that shit. And that doesn't mean that you're better than somebody necessarily, but what it does mean is you had 2 totally different experiences in life thus far. Now, a lot of people in the African American and Latin community, they don't believe in tears. And that's why a lot of people have problems to this day in a lot of different things. They don't believe in tears. Somebody being a tear doesn't mean that they're necessarily a threat to you. And that's the message that a lot of these bloggers send out, especially the hoteps. They send out this message that anybody that's tiered, anybody that's connected to the music industry, anybody that works in certain facilities of life or whatever the case may be, is automatically the devil. And what I would say to you is, I would say quite the contrary. I think a lot of the vloggers that we see nowadays are actually the devils. I think a lot of the vloggers that we see nowadays are actually the problem. They are promoting a certain type of ideology, a certain type of nexus as far as morality to your kids. See, every time that you upload a violence, Every time you upload somebody getting beat up, or every time you upload something about somebody getting fired or losing all their money or whatever, you're paying place into the system. The same system that you argue about, you are now helping usher through the through the masses via your vehicles, or as a lot of y'all like to say, my brand. That's funny shit I ever heard in my life. I used to be reserved for top tier artists like Michael Jackson, or somebody even of today, like I don't know, let's say Jay-Z or somebody like that. When somebody say my brand, and somebody borrowed it and turned around and tried to say it and apply it to YouTubers, people that are popular on social media to sell a couple trinkets and rags and tatters, rags and tatters online. First things first, you don't own anything that we upload. It's only one way of ownership, and you gotta pay for that for me to let you know. But on YouTube owns everything. So when we're on here and we're talking, or we put up an upload or whatever, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and many of these other outlets, they now share ownership of what you have. You understand what I'm saying? Or if not full ownership. They can take it, they can license it to other different people, they can license it to news agencies later on in life. If you come up rich or come up famous or whatever the case may be, they can take that footage and be like, yeah, sure, use it. This is now the premise of where we're at as far as YouTube. And YouTube's going to continue to change. It's changing right now. You guys just ain't paying attention. They're making it a space. Well, let me tell you what they're going to do. Y'all remember when I said this, all right? And I'm going to clip this, make sure y'all hear it again. What they're going to do is they're going to continue for the next couple of months, maybe the next 2-3 months, right? They're going to let all these hip-hop bloggers, I'm talking about hip-hop bloggers. What I mean by that is anything that's happening as far as beef and hip-hop. They're going to take these vloggers and they're going to put them into a space. And the space they're going to put them in is that your entertainment, but you're a certain type of entertainment, right? Almost like a folly, like, a goof. And what they're going to do is they're going to take all these people, put them into this little category, and what they're going to start doing is deducing the amount of people that actually go and see them. The same thing is happening with a lot of far-right wingers right now online or whatever. You can take examples of Alex Jones and a couple other people doing the same thing to them. It's just your turn. So what they're going to do is they're going to start deducing your views, and you're going to be forced to talk about something else. You're going to be forced to talk about something else. Now, what are you going to do then if the past 5-10 years that you've been on YouTube, or within those spectrums, what are you going to do at that point when you have to switch up the game? And a lot of y'all ain't prepared for that. A lot of y'all are so used to talking down about people, looking for people's downfalls, only celebrating those that you want to celebrate for a limited time. And once you finish celebrating them, after that, what you do is you now become the same people that help tear them down when their moment comes. Y'all better pay attention, man. The same thing that people used to do, white people used to do, and I'm gonna say specifically whites and another group with a star, what they used to do in the business, and don't listen. I started at a black company, but the black company had a distribution deal through a very prominent man named Clive Davis. We was literally 2 floors over top of where our offices were. So here was our offices, 2 floors up from that was Arista's offices, all right? So this is something I'm intimately know about, okay? Now, I met Clive Davis maybe 2 times in my whole entire life, but I did meet him, I got pictures with him, etc. But make no mistake about it, Clive Davis had been around since the 70s to CBS Records. And I've said this before and I'll say it again to you, back in the 70s, Clive Davis had been brought up on charges at the time because it was said that he was passing drugs and what you now call payola onto his artists or whatever, in different forms, gifts, drugs, runners, you name it. You can look this story up. I actually ran the story here on my page. Only thing you have to do is put my name in, put Clive Davis behind it, and the story will come up. Now, with that being said, right, a lot of these people are letting hip-hop die. Y'all just don't get it. Nas trying to say it too. Hip-hop is dead. And they're also trying to let the hip-hop vlogger die. And I'm going to tell you how. I'm going to tell you a little secret how they do it. What they're doing is basically they're aiming and betting on the fact that you'll do some type of violence. The violence will become so, how can I say, prominent, that at that time what will happen is there will be a demand for the music itself, and the influence it carries along with it to be demised. Okay? As that avocation comes, another thing comes along with that avocation, which is this. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure my lips ain't dry on camera and all that stuff. What comes with that is another deduction, and it comes from society. Society now starts chiming the same thing. Now, if you need an example of this, just look at Kanye West and how that happened. People started out with an idea of what he said, didn't define what he was actually saying, and whether you agree with him or don't agree with him, the definition itself in Merriam-Webster's dictionary of what he said it places something totally different. So you allowed a whole society right then to misquote a man that looked just like you. What happens when you think you go into the room? Oh, I'm different. Said by me of what Jay-Z said. I'm not black, I'm OJ. Okay. I know the rules too much. A lot of y'all not like Amatullah Shakur, who will take the sacrifice. You don't need no. Listen, one thing you heard me when I was talking about my little prison story, like I said, I made the front page of the paper when I was doing what I was doing. I ran with like 30 guys, strong guys. We all wore the same jackets. And, you know, and the guys, I made the front page, like I said. I had an article. And one thing I noticed about the guys or whatever, all of them, they was ready to do their time. Including myself. I sat in there damn near 2 years. You know? And these guys nowadays, they not prepared to do their time. Shout out to YSL. So that goes to show you the loyalty and where it lies. Their loyalty lies within them, narcissists. And that's what many of these vloggers have perpetuated and pushed and influenced with a lot of these kids for the past, I don't know, let's say 5 years. They've allowed your kids and social media just in general. And the worst part about it was the pandemic. Because see, a lot of people had never been by themselves before. They always had a crowd. You know, Thursday night, I'm going over here just so everybody can see me. Or I got this new outfit on. I'm going to kill them at the club this weekend. I'm about to go to Times Square tonight and show these chicks these new motherfucking Jordans. I'm about to go to the restaurant tonight and show them these new Yeezys as I pay for my bill. I'm just going to stretch my leg out, you know. This is New York's form of thinking. Everybody in New York is competing with each other, pretty much the whole tri-state. But when I lived there, everybody always competed with each other. I don't know if they do the same such, but I'm pretty sure nothing has changed. These guys, during the pandemic, got left in solitude. And when they got left in solitude, you know, depending on the individual who's having the conversation, that person in solitude can become someone else. Because now this is the first time in life that he can't walk out the door and there's an audience of whatever capacity. Listen to what I'm telling you. You don't have an audience. Same thing happened with a lot of these superstars, and that's why you saw them come online all of a sudden. I think that was one of the worst things that happened during the pandemic too. You got stars coming online with vlogs and shit. I'm not talking about ex-stars. I'm talking about current stars. And you're never an ex-star ever. Like I told you in front of Bad Boy Entertainment offices, once you're famous, you're always famous. Once you're attached to the music business in the real way, you're always attached. I'm part of this. This is, you know, what I've done. This is what I know. You know, I don't know how to make hamburgers. I don't know how to make donuts. I don't know how to make coffee. I know how to help sell fucking records. You know what I mean? So I ain't no way out of this for me. I just have to continue matriculating into something else. But a lot of the stars that came on the internet started talking a little bit too much. And they started talking about personal stuff. They started talking about things that really should have never been talked about, or save for your book or your documentary or your mockumentary or whatever the hell else you was going to do. Should have been saved for that. So now there's no surprise factor to you. So now what is the next thing that people do? They start attacking you because there's no surprise factor to you. That is the biggest thing that you have as an artist, as a star, is your surprise capacity. This is why Kanye has lasted so long. He always comes out and surprises you. Name me another artist you knew with a freaking stage above the crowd. Name me another time you seen a rapper on stage with ballerinas. Name me another time that you've seen a rapper come on stage wearing a mask, and sequin mask and all kinds of other masks or whatever the case may be. You've never seen it because it was a thought of innovation, surprise element. This is what keeps an artist alive. You can't tell me anything different than probably well over at least 40 to 50 artists I've helped promote. All of them had different genres, all of them had different styles, all of them had different personalities. You can't tell me anything about this. The only person I can't figure this out about is myself. It's very hard to do it for yourself. Anybody's ever worked in promotion, whatever, it's very hard to do it for yourself. But when I'm looking at other people, I can tell you what you are, where you're gonna be at, how you do it, how you promote yourself, all in one sentence. Paragraph. So let me tell you guys this. Pay attention to the vloggers you're consuming. I'm not telling you to unfollow anyone. I'm not telling you to go flag anyone. Pay attention to the vloggers you pay attention to. And tell me if I'm lying when I say they're a messy bunch of individuals. Pink rollers. Anybody ever lived in the projects? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Pink rollers. You didn't even have to live in the projects for that to happen. I never lived in the projects, not seen that. Pink rollers. The Pink Rollers crew. That's what I call them, the Pink Rollers crew. Don't worry, I'm going to be with y'all for a minute. I got the phone plugged up as I'm talking to y'all. We Gucci. I'll be with y'all for a minute. Got a lot of things to talk about on here, about these so-called saviors of hip-hop, which ain't doing nothing but, it seems to me, but promoting violence and getting children killed. Not directly, but their influence is getting children killed. And you don't have to believe me or whatever, but what makes most shocking than anything is these 40, 50, and 60-year-old consumers of these same outlets that are really made for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and maybe early 50s. I'm talking about, I went online and had arguments, drop-down arguments with women that were 50, 60 years old, men that were 60 plus years old. And I'm thinking to myself, based on the person's page that I'm on, what are you doing here? And I'll actually type that to them and they get mad. They get mad, they get upset. Right now on my ex-boss's thing that he does, I'm always in there and I'm like, I like to call myself, and I take this from G.F. Brown, shout out to him, the residential irritant. You understand what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that. There are people that come in to people's chat rooms solely just to disagree with them, solely just to argue with them, solely just to talk about them, whatever the case may be. I've seen somebody today that's got some controversy going on. I went on his page today to listen to his live. Everybody, and I'm gonna say 70% of the people that were in there all had these things in common. They were all either Latin or black, and they all were pointing fingers and matter-of-factly about everything. And I was just like, yo, you know what shocks me? Is this right here. How could you at any time get into somebody's Instagram live, YouTube live, whatever the case may be, and the whole time that you're there, you're directly saying to people, hey, I'll hope for your demise. Why? Why? Why do you hope for their demise? Who you work for? Y'all ever ask some people that you see them doing that? Ha ha, and they always got the same thing. LOL, key, ha ha ha. Or this other one they write, CHILE, child. I'm like, what does child mean? Does that mean that you're trying to invoke, I don't know, a slave or something like that? I don't understand. I said it just like that. I saw a gentleman the other night, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. And I said it before, and I'm glad somebody else is bringing it up now. I said to you guys one time, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 months ago, I said, do you notice that most of the vloggers that are out nowadays, they all got certain things in common, right? One thing they do is they all talk like reverted slaves. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about deep Mississippi sharecropper slave. All right, don't get mad at me. Just listen to what I'm saying. These people, they sound and they revert and they talk like that, even if they're not even from the South, which kills me. You understand what I'm saying? I've actually lived down South before. I know how people down South, they sound. I know how they talk to each other, they interact with each other. And it's not always like that. To be quite honest with you, a lot of people down South take pride in that they went to school. Take pride that they speak correct English. Take pride in their collegiate endeavors. So what you're really doing is you're mimicking what you would call a step and fetcher, a tap shoer, or what you would call what's really a coon. And at that time I said, the people that y'all think are coons are not really the coons. The people that really are the coons are the ones delivering the message. Hold up, stop right there. Back in the days of the plantation, whether it be in the Caribbean or whether it be in the South, back in the days of the plantation, it was the coon that would run and say, "Massa, they trying to escape again. Massa, they running. Massa, such and such took more portions than they were supposed to be worth. Massa." If you watch the movie Life, an extension of that in the next period consisted. Remember that old black man that was one of the overseers at the jail? They used to be hard on Martin's character and Eddie Murphy's character. Y'all remember him? That was an extension of that. Then you got another extension of that in another decades, which is the current one that you see now, which can lie in the political arena, which can lie in the police department, which can lie in many other different outlets. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, I'll give you a perfect example. I have shown y'all at least consistently now, and I think I have had on my page, I have had police officers line up so I could film them and their statements, and they gladly did it. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's just good goddamn police work. I adamantly sit by that, especially with the wackos you got out here nowadays. Now, with that being said, there's at least been 7 times, admittedly, even currently, about 2 weeks ago, when you guys saw me in Times Square, and the police officer, he overheard what I was talking about, and he said 2 times, even before I left, "I want to shake your hand." Because I was talking about something that was relevant to the people. And some people, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. They are so used to hearing violence. They are so used to hearing negative stuff every day at the value and the cost of many of these vloggers out here that do absolutely nothing to elevate the culture, if I want to say. None of those cops had anything bad to say to me. They didn't yell at me. They didn't raise their voice at me. Y'all heard them in the video. I have another video where I had a problem on the train with a black female conductor. She wanted to embarrass me, so I embarrassed her. And when I was on the train, one thing I noticed was she went to go get these 2 white men because she wanted to further the embarrassment. Like, I'm supposed to be scared of 2 white men. And I'm not saying anything racist because I got white friends. I always speak about Italians and Greeks on there. So how could I have anything against white men? In her ideology, just listen to what I'm saying. In her ideology, she believed that kissing the cheeks of a white man was the way to go. This is the way of the slave. Pay attention to me. This is something that's passed down. These are ideologies that are passed down. So what y'all don't understand is when Kanye West said new slaves, this is what he meant. A revert back to the primitive. A revert back to the primitive. Like literally, a reversion back to the primitive. They went back to the plantation and they had people, your local vloggers, your local whoever streaming this week or whatever, facilitate the passage. So I got to ask again, who are a lot of these vloggers working for? And when you look at them, you'll see they're connected to major outlets. I can name 5 off the top of my head right now that are connected to major outlets. 5 of them. And when you add that up, you say, okay, well, that's 5. It's got to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 I ain't been paying attention to. Start paying attention. Start paying attention. Many of these vloggers are not your friends. You'll notice they act all hoity-toity in Hollywood when you write something in the chat room and you don't make a donation. They only pay attention to when you make a donation. People come to my chat room all the time and I pay attention to everybody. I'll even the ones that don't agree with me. I won't argue with you. I'll just block you. You know, that's a part of YouTube. What I got a problem with is this almost pivot to almost really want people to return back to slavery, to return back to this tribalism. The tribalism, see, there's one thing if it's tribalism, and if you don't know what the definition of tribalism is, it's one thing if the tribalism includes let's say, if the tribalism includes a common goal, not only a common goal, but a common idea, and the tribalism is not that bad at that time. We're all on a unilateral thought process. We all unilaterally agree this is great. We all unilaterally agree that there's no other option, so this is the way we're going to move forward. There's nothing wrong with that. What I have a problem with is tribalism when it involves some, let's just say, not so up to par things, you know? The promotion of the downgrading of someone based on their financial situation that we may or may not know about. Facilitating and making fun of someone like Kanye West online for the benefit not of only nothing but themselves. You understand what I'm saying? When you have the option not to say nothing at all. You ever notice that? One of the biggest tools that you got is a vlog, and I'm trying to set an example because you notice I didn't report about Master P and his son. I didn't report about Gunna. I didn't even report when Gunna got released. Why? Because that's their personal business. That's their personal business. And it seems like the ordinary vlogger nowadays takes more satisfaction in being a prissy, missy gossiper. These are the same guys, if you would have came around us, let's say not even 10 years back in the game, y'all forgive me, I'll put my gloves on. If you would have came around us back 10 years in the game, we would have beat the living, out of you. These prissy bloggers that they have nowadays are facilitating your children getting in all kinds of danger. All kinds of danger. They're making mistakes, they're making decisions that most people would have never thought of. And said, you can't be that silly. You can't be that slow. You can't see what's... No, a lot of them are that silly and that slow because they come from parents that are that silly and that slow. They come from families that are that silly and that slow. They come from individuals that, I don't downgrade single moms, but there were some single moms that this wasn't nothing. Okay? This was the club chick. I remember growing up, there were girls in gangs, especially Latin queens. I remember all this stuff. The Bloods at one time had a section of girls. I don't know what happened to that. They don't promote them if they're still out there. So it wasn't just men. A lot of times that gets left out the conversation. There was a whole bunch of crappy moms out here, man. Whole bunch I know some of them. And now at adulthood, they wondering why, and I'm not necessarily pointing this to anybody specifically, but they wondering in adulthood, why is my child in trouble? Why is my child in jail? Why is my child this? Why is my child? It's because your child is easy to influence because you was easy to influence. You didn't send any ideals or anything. That's why I hate it when people be like, I'm not going to say my age. I'm going to say older than me. Way older than me. I'm going to say probably like 10 or 15 years older than me. And they're just some people that are on these chat rooms and they're talking. And when they're talking, they're like, well, they always have this little thing that goes along with it. Well, back in the day, I remember back when it's not going back there. It's not going back there. Grandma Tamika rides around playing 6ix9ine. Iwela Maria rides around playing Don Omar. You understand what I'm saying? Like the world has changed that much. So no matter how much of your traditional values or your traditional system, when the last time these people talking, when's the last time you went to a home cooked dinner at Big Mama house? Anybody? Right in the chat if you've been to a consistent weekly Sunday dinner at Big Mama house. I'll shut up. I need at least 5 people, if not 10, to react and put that comment there. They've been to Big Mama house in let's say the past year. Past 6 months to a year. And had sat down with all their family and had dinner. That shit ain't happened since the 80s, early 90s. I think the last time that happens, even when it was fading out then, it was when they made Big Mama's House. It was fading out then. When they made Tyler Perry made his movie, it was fading out then. That's well over 15 years ago when Tyler Perry made that movie. You get what I'm saying? So let's not just sit here and pretend like things are going to revert back to the primitive. They're not. People used to watch cable TV. Now they watch the internet. People used to have fiber optics. They carried out telephone lines. Now we use satellites. You understand? Things change. And the reason I'm mentioning the older crowd is not to embarrass them or not to insult them. What I'm trying to tell you is, when you start talking like that, you're having hopes and prayers. When in reality, what you need to be doing is doing the same thing that I'm doing, is getting online and talking about what it was like when you were growing up, but in depth. And somehow influence the culture from that end. But if you're trying to influence the culture continuously by just reporting about rappers or whatever the case may be, it's not going anywhere. Now, this is something I wanted to segue into as well. I wanted to talk about this because it had been on my mind for a minute. And I said to myself, you know what? I ain't going to talk about it, but I got to talk about it now. I got to talk about this one. Meg Thee Stallion, Cheddar Bob. I'm sticking with my theory till I'm proven different. Meg Thee Stallion, Cheddar Bob, her whole thing is falling apart, isn't it? Now, I'm not going to go for the angle of whether she's guilty or whether and I'm not going to go for that angle. I want to talk about something that's way more broad than that, which is this. These chicks out here lying. These chicks out here lying. Now, I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. You know what the difference is between a chick that's all the time around the hood and she's dealt with men or dealt with individuals and she's a liar versus a superstar that's a liar? Absolutely nothing. You thought the same with Amber Heard. The world thought the same with Megan Thee Stallion. They even continue to think that she is innocent. I'm telling you, Cheddar Bob, it's a possibility that Cheddar Bob shot herself. I don't care what nobody says. Tory Lanez ain't shoot that girl. I really don't think Tory Lanez shot that woman. I think that woman was upset. I think that woman was mad that her friend was sleeping with Tory Lanez. And that's my position on that, and I'm going to stick with that. I've said it thus loud, and I'll continue to say it. But there's a more undermining message here from anything. Oh, we at a point now in America, and I'm going to add this in too. Harvey Weinstein, which another story that none of you vloggers, I'm going to talk about that too. None of you vloggers seem to be wanting to talk about. You want to talk about Kanye insulting the Jews, but you don't want to talk about a Jewish man that was convicted for taking advantage of women for years. Okay? For years. This man ushered in some women's careers via the D. But nobody wants to talk about Harvey Weinstein. I'm going to get to that in a minute. We're not going to talk about Harvey, that creep, that loser, that POS. We're not going to talk about Harvey though, right? Yeah, we are. Are we at a point now in America where maybe we shouldn't believe all women? Damn, did he say that? I said that. And I'm saying that off the helms of things like the Me Too movement, which I think is needed. I will not take away the right of that. But I'm talking in the lights of the Me Too movement and all this other stuff or whatever the case may be. I'm wondering to myself this. Should we stop believing all women? Because if you look at Megan Thee Stallion, if you look and turn around and look at Amber Heard and her situation with Johnny Depp, both of these women were lying. Both of these women were lying. They were emphatically lying. The case will come through, and in a minute you'll get proven the point. I'm pretty much sure of that there's a possibility that Cheddar Bob, aka Megan Thee Stallion, shot herself. And I'm sticking with Cheddar Bob. But more importantly, what is here is, out of the court depositions versus her interview with Gayle King and disposition she's given prior, there seems to be some inconsistencies, wouldn't you say? At the very least, can we say that? There's some inconsistencies. in her stories. And with that being said, I got to ask the question of this. With all the women that are supporting her, and trust me, there's hundreds of thousands of them. These women are fanatics. They are devoted to idol worshiping, which is another thing keen to Black and Latin culture nowadays. They love to worship idols. They believe that they can become like these idols. Many of you won't and can't. You don't have the talent. You don't have the presence and a lot of other things to become those. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. But out of all the 10, I think they said something like there was like 1,000 uploads put up a day or an hour, or one of the two, of new music nowadays. I heard somebody mention that. I think it might have been 2 Chainz that said it. And the prosperity of things moving nowadays or whatever, all you will not be stars. You understand? But what I had a problem with was all these girls are fanatics that are online and they're supporting Meg Thee Stallion, even with the information put right in front of their face, and it's literally, you can see that this girl is telling some lies, they still will come to the defense of Megan Thee Stallion and still utter the same trope, believe all women. And what I'm saying to you is, with the amount of women that have true stories of abuse, true stories of this regret from bad relationships or whatever. First of all, let me salute y'all ladies, okay? I ain't talking about those women. Those women are legitimate. Those women have the right to say and go after their accusers, you know. But then there's a set of women that, based on the fact that they see the attention that comes along when these women come into admission of what has happened to them, in reality, the women that really things have happened to, what they do is they piggyback off those women because they want the same attention. So I'll look in the comment section sometimes and I will challenge some of these women. And I'll say to myself, okay, first of all, and I'm not saying it to be rude or to be cruel or anything like that. Mind you this, underline that. I'm not saying it to be rude or be cruel, or whatever the case may be. No, I'm saying it because of this. I will write comments back to these women, whether I see them in a live chat or whether I see a comment they had left or whatever. It probably harms me sometimes, whatever. And I'll say to them, your story sounds like a lie. Literally. And when I asked them to start giving some details, and I don't mean like how you were assaulted, how you were beat every day, and nothing like that, but just give us some more details than your quick little trite or whatever. And what I find is there's 2 categories where you can find the lies. Y'all want to hear them? The first category is if they leave a quick warped comment. I'm going to say 80% of the time. Now, this includes language like, oh, that happened to me too. And they'll write it right up under whoever the poster is that got 100,000 views or whatever the case may be. They will make sure they tag them in it. They will make sure they comment right up under where the person that got 100,000 views, 200,000, they will make sure that they are seen. Versus, well, let me give you the second example first. And then the second one is when you see a long, drawn out comment, a long, drawn out paragraph, and most of it involves misandry. It doesn't involve something that actually happened to them. It involves misandry. That means a hatred of men. Oh, it's a whole bunch of them out here. A lot of these women hate men for no reason, don't even know why they hate men. Because you've been raised like, you've been institutionalized, programmed. It's in my opinion, it's still, this is the perfect, if they ever needed a solution to getting down the world's population, because the world is out overpopulated and our resources can't contain worldwide the amount of the population growth. Now, I'm not talking about people that are, my age necessarily, even in their 20s. We're talking about the babies being born. There's a record amount of babies being born in certain culture groups, where other culture groups that have had, I guess you want to say, more of a longevity in this country seem to be deducing in their birth rate, specifically Black Americans and white Americans. When white Americans, you're seeing that they're waiting later. With Black Americans, you're seeing that they're waiting later. Where the trends with other cultures don't see it that way. The trends with a couple other cultures are seeing, emphatically, especially in third world countries, poor countries, not to insult them, but what you're seeing is a blast in births, where some families will mimic what you used to see back in the 1940s and 50s in this country, where they have 4 to 5 children per family. Usually they are poor. Usually they can't sustain those children. Usually they can't sustain their household, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And unlike here in America, a lot of the entities that they can go to and approach when they have these problems, they don't have them in these said countries. I know this being half an immigrant myself, all right? So trust me on this one. Now, with that being said, the biggest solution, I believe, to counter what's going on is to promote the hatred between the genders. You promote the hatred between the genders. You have the women be at the anchor of it. You pivot them up in society, make them feel, give them little trinkets and job positions and things like that, where they actually think in their mind they got power, when in reality we all know they don't have any power. But, and I say this respectfully, you don't have any power. This is the problem what I have with a lot of the women, including the woman I was arguing with on the Metro North here in Connecticut. That is a problem. A lot of these women, they challenge men physically, you know? Well, anyway, let me not go and segue into something else. You have to watch for these two types of comments, especially if they direct it to the poster that may or may not have a legitimate story that she was attacked, she was beaten, she was abused, whatever the case may be. You see what I mean? These women that piggyback off these women that actually have experiences and actually have things happen to them, these women that piggyback off their stories are vying for attention. They're not looking to be recognized for whatever happened to them. They are vying for attention. Now, I've had this now, and I've seen this now be brought up by other women that are vloggers that play both sides of the spectrum. They might agree with the MGTOW section, which I'm not a part of, but I agree in some of the things they say, or they may agree in this space of feminists, whatever the case may be. Y'all give me 1 second. I'm buttoning up my jacket here. It's getting a little chilly. So these women that are mentioning this and are seeing this are coming from both spectrums, and they're saying the same thing. Don't use our stories, whether they be true or not, to piggyback off of, to get the same response or in hopes of the same response of attention. I don't know, attention, I guess. And then we all know the women love attention. Certain type of women love attention. Certain other women don't. But most women love attention. Even if it's for a brief moment, it puts out this dopamine euphoric feeling inside of them. Oh my God, somebody looked at me. All this effort I put in to get dressed and putting this makeup on or whatever, at least somebody glanced at me. That's how women think. I don't care what they say. I'm not looking for a man. I don't need a man's attention. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Are we at a point now because of Meg Thee Stallion and Amber Heard where necessarily we might not agree or quick to believe all women? Is that a fair question? Should we start taking advantage of the fact that we can option out our advocacy, at least up front? At least up front. Is it possible that somebody can have an opinion and say, you know what, based on not only what I've seen, but what I've heard, I don't believe this person? And then not be held against you because of gender. Oh, it's a whole bunch of shaming tactics that go on once you don't agree with a woman online. You didn't know? Oh my God, he hates women. Who hurt you? I can't believe he said that. He's terrible. I had a woman the other day tell me that I actually support anti-Semitism because I sent her my video, as many of y'all have seen. I don't know how many thousands of views that video's got now, but I sent her my video where it was a Jewish rabbi, and he was saying that everybody is to serve the Jews upon the return of Christ. This is what this man said. He said everybody. He didn't say this blacks, he didn't just say whites, he didn't just say Latinos. He said everybody is to be at the footstool. And I sent this woman the link to my video, and I said, okay, well, explain this. And the only reason I said that to her, you'll get the point in a second. The only reason I said what I said to her, and I sent her the video, is because the pure simple fact, her advocacy was beyond the normal for talking against Kanye. And I looked at the view. Listen, I'm deep in the views. I think I'm at, 2.6 million views for this year? So I know all about views per month, per day, or whatever. Ain't a day that I don't go on YouTube Studio and see how I'm doing. And I can tell by Just some videos I put up to get thousands of views within 30, 40 minutes versus some views that don't get no more than 100 something views based on the interest point. But what I do know is there's a lot of women out here that are using the disguise of their gender to somehow or another validate them as a person of morality. All right? And we cannot confuse gender. Gender and morality are not synonymous with men or women. Anybody that has even a couple of months of a college education knows that. Gender and morality are not unilateral. So when I have women prophesizing and posting to me and telling me, okay, well, gender is unilateral with morality, durability, I'm just lost. And I really don't think, based off Meg Thee Stallion, based off Amber Heard, that we should believe all women at this point. These women have lied on national stages. Don't you realize that? These women have lied in courtrooms. It wasn't like we caught her lying on an Instagram post or YouTube upload or interview. These women lied under oath. So if they'll lie to a judge, they'll lie to you. They'll lie to the public. They'll lie to multiple different people. And that is my point right there. Now, I'm going to move forward with this into 2023, and I'm going to say to myself, no, we should not believe all women. Not instantaneously anyway. We should believe women that I believe, you know, there's a point in the conversation or any conversation when you can pick up when somebody is lying or when somebody is telling the truth. I adamantly believe that. If you're smart, if you say you're from whatever background you're from, you should be able to pick up on that, whether it be collegiate or the streets. You should be able to pick up on when somebody is telling porgy pies very quickly. So I can hear women in their voices, a certain tone in women's voices. I know this from being in a household with women. There's a certain tone in women's voices when they're telling the truth, and it's a certain tone in women's voices when they're telling a lie. Okay? One of the fundamental things that many of y'all can probably relate to is when a girl does something wrong or whatever, and you question her about it, she'll be like, huh? Huh? Whenever you hear your chick and you ask her a question, your sister, your female cousin, and she turns around, she says, huh? Please believe you're about to hear some BS. Please believe that. Many of these women are jumping online and they're doing it, or they're saying what they're saying for shock value. They're giving stories about them being assaulted, being stories about them being abused, whatever, not in hopes of getting some type of not in hopes of getting some type of healing mechanism coming from it, whether it be in the passe of people coming to them and joining with them and saying, hey, we feel for you legitimately. No, these women are looking for attention because they believe this is a segue to get them more followers. This is a segue for them to get their dopamine filled up for somebody paying attention to them. And I'm telling you girls, you're wrong for doing this. Meg Thee Stallion had feminists hard and wide backing her. Amber Heard had feminists, particularly she was a spokesman for the Me Too campaign at one time, backing her and saying there's no way Amber's lying. And even when they have caught Amber Heard lying, she has not been brought to justice. She has not been held under the contention. And if, well, I heard this chick wants to take the whole case back to court again. Why? Why, Amber? We'll talk about that another time. We'll talk about that another time. Today ain't the time to talk about that. But I'm yet at the contention that, no, I'm not going to believe all women moving forward. I need some emphatic proof, miss. I need some emphatic proof that what you say happened to you, happened to you. Because in today's time, we've got women. Listen, let me tell you, I'm going to tell y'all something that Puff and Prez and Malcolm Miles and James Cruz and all of them told us, all right? They always prepared us for stuff. And they knew it was superstars because they had been stars at that point when I got at the company for at least the past 7 to 8 years, if not 10 damn near. When we got to the company, they sat us down and they told all of us, they said, listen, don't be having all these wayward chicks in the hotel with you. Don't be, you know what I'm saying, frolicking with every chick that you meet. A lot of these chicks, they're going to talk to you because they want to get in the club with y'all. They want to meet Puff or whatever. So be aware of it. And we sat and we were aware of it. And at that time, per se, it wasn't really the utilization of cell phones and cell phone cameras as they are today. They were there, but they wasn't utilized the way they are now, you know. And so, even with that being said, that's one thing I can say about Puff and all them, whatever they taught us. Among other things they taught us too. I give credit where credit is due. They taught us that. And we avoided a lot of situations based on that. I remember one time we was in Miami, we had to particularly kick this one chick out because she had came there for my man, but somehow or another ended up in my suite. Yes, I said suite. She ended up in my suite. And so I was like, and even though it was a junior suite, it was still a suite. I had a bouvet in it. I had an eat-in kitchen. I had a deck. It was a junior suite, but it was a suite nevertheless. And so I'm sitting there, and this woman comes up in the room with me. My man is up in there. He remembered the story to this day. Shout out to Mo. And so the chick comes up into the Wilson in Harlem Mo. The chick comes up into the room, or whatever the case may be. Y'all listen to this story. The chick comes up into the hotel room or whatever. Now she ready to bust down with me and my mans. But she started arguing about who gonna bust down first. And I said, oh, no. Based off the fact that you willing to bust down with both of us, there's something funny here. So I go get my man, I go to his suite, I go get him, and I'm like, look, we got this girl over at the room that you brought back with you or whatever. She talking kind of weird, she moving kind of weird. I don't know what's going on. I want to get up on out of here. She's causing a problem. So my man, being the stand-up dude that he is, shout out to Chrome, he come over there and he says, yo, you got to leave, right? Come to find out, the chick worked for the Miami Herald. I swear to God. And had I not asked her what she did for work, we wouldn't have never known. She worked for the Miami Herald, okay? Which is a small publication down in Miami, but it's still a publication. And so I'm saying to myself, if we would have went and busted down with this chick, do you know what possibly could have been a setback? And everybody, including Mo, including Chrome, they were aware of that because what we had been told previously. You know what I'm saying? Don't have them chicks up around you like that if you don't trust them. You know what I'm saying? If you get a tingling, there's something wrong's going on, get them up out of the way. Get them up out of the way. And we did that. We did that. Now, let's say in a bad scenario, that same woman would have ran a story and said, I was physically attacked in a hotel room by 2 bad boy employees at the time. Do you know what the setback would have been for that? It would have been horrible. So when I come to the contention and I say to you guys, I say, don't believe all women. Nowadays, based on what we've seen from Meg Thee Stallion, based on what we've seen from Amber Heard, when I tell you, moving forward into 2023, maybe we shouldn't believe all women, it's because of pure simple fact, even under oath, they're lying. Don't do that, Poppy. I'll knock you the fuck out. It's inevitable that somehow or another, y'all excuse me, it's inevitable some way or another that we got to take a look at what happened with Amber Heard. We got to take a look at what happened with Meg Thee Stallion. And we got to say to ourselves, somewhere along the way, on the yellow brick road that it is, something ain't right here. Go look at the comments on any story that's about Meg Thee Stallion. Go look at any story that's about Amber Heard. I'm talking about on social media specifically. Go to your Instagrams, go, wherever you go, and look for stories about them, and I guarantee, without even looking, there will be thousands of comments under from individual women from all across the country, Hoboken, Nebraska, Pocahontas, Missouri, Shimbrook, Idaho. And these women will be online and they will all have the same consistent story, right? They will matriculate in different ways. But what you'll find is, and I'm not saying that some of those women are not telling the truth, let's not say that. But what you will find is that many of those women, which many of them are lying, they're just piggybacking off the story so they can be seen or heard or get some followers. If you don't understand what I'm saying, a lot of these women are putting these tropes online underneath women that got 100,000 views or whatever for their story, based on the fear simple fact they want attention. They have intent. They want attention. And the attention that they're getting, I wouldn't want that attention. I wouldn't want that attention at all. I gained damn near, now we're headed towards 15,000 followers by being myself and talking myself and uploading the stuff that I upload. And if you pay attention, you know, I could easily do, I don't know, 3 times that more quickly, if I put up some of these stories that were false, some of these stories that were, you know what I mean? I could do it way more quickly, but I choose not to. And for that, I'm penalized in that regard. Now, I don't know who exactly's got something to do with that, but there's definitely something there for the gossiping crowd as far as it comes with and people that lie when it comes to Instagram and many of these other outlets and vehicles that we utilize with these free accounts. There's definitely something there that promotes negative or lies or whatever, more so than it promotes the truth. That is a fact. Moving on from that, I just want to say, keep your eyes open, stay woke. As they say, stay woke. Moving on from that, I want to talk a little bit about Harvey Weinstein. He's been convicted. He was only convicted out of one person. One of the people that accused Harvey Weinstein was Jennifer Newsom, which is Governor Gavin Newsom's wife, some years ago, before she was his wife. Now, this is an example where you should believe women. Oh, Harvey did that. Harvey Weinstein did that. I've seen video now, 2 videos. Some of them they've taken off of YouTube and different other outlets or whatever, but you can find them. You got to do a deep search. If you're an investigative type of person like I am, you'll find it. But there was at one time at least about 10 to 11 videos with Harvey Weinstein. And one of the particular videos, they have him in the hotel room. There's a woman with glasses. I forgot what her name is, but it's up here on my page. And if you watch the way that this man grabbed this woman, if you watch the way this man touched this woman, if you watch the way this man was enticed with this woman, you will find right at that moment one thing. This man was a predator. He preyed on women. He preyed on women and their ambitions. He preyed on young women specifically that were naive. And I don't mean that all young women are naive. What I mean is these girls, they come from backgrounds where you could tell they hadn't been out, if that makes any sense. And I know this because I have cousins like this. I have a female cousin that's now on her 3rd book. She does Christian books and all that stuff. She's got awards for it. She's on Amazon. She's won an Amazon award for her sales and attention, I guess, or whatever. So shout out to my cousin Shayla. I've got another cousin that's really, really, really high up there in sports. I have another cousin that's in the military. I come from mostly military family. So, you know, it's crazy because Harvey Weinstein, he preyed on these girls because he knew he was a segue into them getting to what they wanted. That's a predator. There's a lot of these predator men out here that are like that. You know, if you're a guy, there's been some point in your life when you've had a friend that you later on found out was a predator. And what I mean by predator, I've got a fine definition of that. When I say a predator men come in different, how can I say it? They come in different tiers. You got some predator men that are one way, which is this. Especially around about right now while it's cold, or tax season about to come up in another month or so, what you'll see is a preponderance of men that were chilling, hanging out, drinking and smoking, going to this club, that club, the other club during the summer. What you'll find is they now looking for a big broad to shack up with, or a broad that's subpar looking, shack up with for the wintertime, hang out a little bit, have a couple cookies, fix something to eat up the kids' snacks, you know, shit like that. Don't, you know, put back into the community or to the household. You got a lot of men out here that are like that. Now, they don't particularly come in one particular brand either. They come in multiple brands. They come in the brand of black, white, Spanish, Latin, you know, whatever. Oh, there's many of these men. This is one type of predator that's a financial predator. This will also be the same type of predator that you've seen depicted in some types of, I won't go as far as that, but it's the same guy that you probably known from around the way that's always got his girl's car, got his girl's house keys, got to go home because his girl might get mad at him, kick him out. It's about 20 degrees outside. Y'all know the guy. So that's one type of predator. The second type of predator that you have in the male spectrum is this. This is the predator that goes around and he's violent. The violent predator is one of the worst, if you ask me. And this violent predator, he preys on women with the intent on assaulting them, doing something to them, whether it be physically or in the other scope sexually. This is another type of predator. The third type of predator is this type of predator that goes around and sees how many. He's not necessarily a person that's a sexual assaulter. No, this person, what he does is he goes around, he lies to women to get what he wants out of chicks. And one thing about me, and I did some things before, and I done said some things to women before to get some vajay. All men have. But what I don't do is, you don't continue this behavior once you get into your late 20s, early 30s, early 40s, 50s, etc., etc. Some of these men, they continue this on. Black ones, white ones, all alike. I'm a guy. I've been a guy for a long time. Trust me on this one. We all, I say one thing all the time. If you want a cure to racism, you got to send everybody to the bathroom. That's where everybody's equal. Send everybody to the bathroom. Send everybody to the hospital. Send everybody to the graveyard. That's where everybody's equal. Oh, everybody's the same, those places. At the grocery store. Let me not leave that out. Harvey Weinstein was that second type of predator that I was talking about, which is the most heinous. That's a sexual assaulting predator. Now, I'm not here to be the advocate for Me Too or anything like that. I'm not here to be the advocate of morality and purpose and all that. One thing I am going to say is, how come more y'all ain't talking about Harvey Weinstein, but y'all taught the courage and y'all got the time to talk about R. Kelly every time he come up in the news? And in R. Kelly's case, at least I can say this, the evidence seems to point to the fact that a lot of these girls and their parents went along with this for a while. Including one girl that was just recently talking about she was pregnant by R. Kelly. I don't know how that happened. Now, I'm not defending R. Kelly by any means or whatever. But what I'm saying is, the same energy that you put into R. Kelly, how come you didn't put that energy into Harvey Weinstein? I'll even go further. I haven't seen one post from a black or Latin blogger about Harvey Weinstein yet. Not yet. I think I'm the only one that has. Now, if I would have put up an R. Kelly post, by now it would have at least got 2,000 views. I had to actually deduce the amount, not even the amount, the particular brand of uploads that I'm putting up versus my lives like I'm doing here with you guys now, because I wanted to do a social experiment and I wanted to see if I could actually get people to actually listen to some of these stories that you guys are missing. And you're missing these stories because you're talking about Gunna. You're missing these stories because you're talking about YSL. You're missing these stories because you're talking about Master P and his son and their personal endeavors and what he may or may not owe his son. You're so grasped up and you're into deducing, dissecting, and unpacking business of your own culture that you're not even paying attention to what's going on around you. Most people right now can't even tell you the position that the Ukraine is in, or what position right now the world government is in, what position right now, what percentage point that Biden has got an approval rate right now, who's up or may not be up for the next presidential run. Most of these bloggers can't get into a conversation like that. That's why they always turn to and they'll say, oh, I don't get into political conversations. Watch those people like that. There's only two reasons they won't get into political conversations. My grandfather told me this a long time ago. If a man won't get into a political conversation with you, it's one of two reasons. One, he doesn't want you to know his political stance, which I can respect, or his ideologies or whatever, but at the same time, he's trying to hide something based on that fact. The second thing is, they don't have one, and they can't get into that discussion, which is more probable than the latter. Now, when I said earlier in this live, you go back, you'll hear me say it, YouTube is changing again. And the biggest change you're going to see of it is going to come in February. I'm aware of it, but y'all ain't. This is what I'm trying to tell you right now. And what you're going to see is, and don't say I don't do nothing for you. Oh, I do a lot for the culture, and the culture don't do nothing for me. But it's all good. Around about February, if not the latter part of February, because it really doesn't have a trajectory date. It just has a trajectory month. What you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of these vloggers, and specifically hip-hop vloggers, you're going to start seeing their numbers deduce. And a lot of these vloggers are going to be deduced because the conversation is going to come up a one or two fold. And I'm going to tell you something else going to come up with YouTube too that a lot of y'all not prepared for. It's going to come a time when the people are going to start investigating the investigating bodies that's at YouTube. What up, Tuma? Those people are going to start looking at things and they're going to start saying, this is a problem. And this guy right here, he's facilitating the problem. And not only is he facilitating the problem, but he's also influencing the people that are involved in the problem based off his verbiage, based off his uploads, based off his discussion points, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The same way we see with far right-wingers such as Alex Jones, who insulted the state of Connecticut by saying the Sandy Hook didn't happen. At one time, I damn near lived out there in New London. Shout out to New London County, shout out to Groton, shout out to Norwich. I lived in that area, which ain't far away from Harford County out there. And I can tell you this, that really did happen because I got a friend of mine that his nephew died in that tragedy. I talk about it all the time. This ain't the first time I brought it up. I brought it up several times. I've also mentioned that man's name, which I'm not going to do anymore because I don't want you prodding and prying like most of you do. But irregardless, his nephew died in that. You are allowing the men that you should be attacking get away scot-free, and the men that shouldn't be attacked, there shouldn't be anything really said about them because it's none of your business, and they've done things that are less heinous than the people that you refuse to talk about. And that's why I'm confused. So I need some representatives, both from the Black and Latin culture, to make me aware of this and tell me where I'm wrong. Because most of the hip-hop vloggers, am I not wrong? Most of them are Latin or Black. If not all, if not the high majority of them, you get your white vloggers like the Blods and, you know, Report Card and all of them. But I'm talking about where are, you know, Adam 22, you know, those guys. But I'm talking about where is the angle of the Black and Latin vlogger nowadays in 2022, headed into 2023? Are you going to continue to pray to the people? Because now you're predators. See how that segue goes? You're predators. A lot of these YouTubers are predators. Now, they're not predators in the traditional way that you may be thinking, but they're predators in the such of they prey on certain topics and discussion points or whatever to try you in to, in some ways, get you involved in it more personally than you should be. What do I mean? I appreciate the people that came forth and they solved, if you really want to say, the young Dolph debacle. That I can appreciate because that man was out. He was about, y'all just give me 1 second, I'm lighting a cigarette. That man was about, he was around, and he was dangerous. Like I said, sometimes it's just good goddamn police work. I don't want him around us either. I got a nephew out here. I got an aunt out here. She traveled down that way when she go home. My grandma out here. She traveled that way when she go home. I don't care if she in the car or she walking. My grandma go down that way. I appreciate the people that came forth and solved that young Dolph case. I appreciate the people that came forth and they solved other murders, like the one that happened with Takeoff. Y'all just give me 1 second here. I appreciate those people. Because without those people, those murders might have went unsolved for a lot longer. Okay? Especially in the case of young Dolph. But I say to myself, why don't y'all use that same investigative toolage when it comes to dissecting Harvey Weinstein, when it comes to dissecting Joel Epstein, when it comes to dissecting Ghislaine, or whatever her name was, that was convicted for her involvement with Epstein? How come y'all don't take y'all investigative qualities and apply them to there? And what you'll find is they're not going to do it because they're scared. They scared. They scared. That's why. I can break it down. That's the easiest answer I can give my audience right now. They scared. See, there's a lot of things that these to most blacks and Latins that have never grown up with white folks around them. I'm talking about grow up. I'm not talking about, now you're an adult and now you got white friends that you work with or you may go to college with or something like that. In many of those cases, a lot of times what you'll find is a lot of those minorities, that is their first interaction they've ever had with white people. I hear Corey Holcomb say it all the time. He said, I come from a segregated city. I lived in Chicago. What he means by segregated, meaning that black folks will live on one side of town, which is quite often in most major cities. Blacks and Latins will live on one side of town. Whites and opulent Latinos and blacks live on another side of town, right? So what he was saying was, since he coming from Robert Taylor homes and the projects, he was saying my interaction with white folks wasn't until I got to Los Angeles. And this holds true for a lot of blacks and Latinos. They don't like to admit it, but it's the truth. And sooner or later, you're going to be forced to admit it. Now, with that being said, right, if you're someone who grew up with whites, it's very different for you. And many of y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. I point and I use the example of Candace Owens a lot of times because she's from right here in Stanford. And I use her as an example, not because of her ideologies or what she believes in per se, necessarily, but more so as a factor of how she conducts herself, how she talks or whatever. That's very condescending of women from this area, how they talk. You will find a big difference between how a New York woman talks and how a woman from Connecticut talks. Especially when you start getting into more northern parts of Connecticut, you will vastly see the difference. Now, I know this from living in New York before. Now, and shout out to all New York women. I'm not saying y'all bad women or anything like that. I'm just saying there is a difference as far as your personalities are concerned and what you are accustomed to. People in New York, for the most part, are accustomed to being in urban areas where they're packed on top of each other. People's aggressions are going high on a daily basis, whether it be on or off the subway or just sitting in front of their house. Most of the people down there are struggling. Most of the people down there don't have the whimsical view to say, hey, this is overbearing. Let me leave here. And so it creates a lot of stress factors, and that stress factors create certain personalities. Now, here, where it's a lot more lackadaisical, and I've grown up under this, you know what I mean? It's like I understood when I came back home to the state how that relaxation goes. That's what I mean by that. So let me just tell my way and segue back into what I was talking about. With these vloggers, it's the same. Many of these vloggers that y'all pay attention to have clearly just grown up in urban areas. That's all they know. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to recognize yourself for who you are. And they speak so matter-of-factly about whites and how whites think and how they speculate they think or whatever the case may be. And I don't know how many times I had to tell this kid this one day, and it really hurt his feelings, but at the same time, he needed to hear it. I was in, I think it was a grocery store one night, and this kid, there was a white lady in front of me, and this kid, I could automatically tell that he had some type of, I don't know if you really want to say he had some type of identity issue. That's what I'm gonna leave it at. I'm gonna say he had some identity issues. So this white lady that was in front of me, she's going to, pay for a little bit of things. She only had a few things. That's why I went in that line. And so she's paying for a few little things. And he's just overly nice, just overly energetic, saying things that in reality he doesn't even need to say. Just ring her up and get on to the next customer. But this is partaking of the brown nosing. Hence, back again to whether it's the Spanish conquistadors conquering the Taínos and the Arawak Indians of the islands, to the Dutch, the English, and some of the Spaniards and the French colonizing the people here. All right, it's colonization, whether you like it or not. You have a doctrine that is not originally your own. That's why I hate being half Latino. I hate when I hear Latinos say, I'm pure of this, I'm pure of that. No, you're pure with those Spanish conquistadors that came from Eastern fucking Europe and taught you their language, y'all. And don't you forget it. Your Indians, your Arawaks, your fucking Aztecs, your warrior people. So I hate when I hear Latinos say, I'm pure of this, I'm pure of that. When you acquiesce to that doctrine, acquiesce yourself to that doctrine as being a Latino, and old Latinos will tell you this. Old Latinos will tell you this. That's why I prefer talking to old Latinos before I talk to young Latinos any day. Because they'll tell you the real. If you go down to Puerto Rico right now, they have slave quarters where they used to bring the slaves into from the Atlantic slave trade. And this is a place you can tour. It's a tourist attraction. Okay? They also use the place, and they have depictions of it on the island at the site of the blacks and the Indians that they brought to the islands to pick sugar cane, to put platinum, bananas. This was an industry. Same way it was an industry here in the United States with cotton and everything else that they used. Corn, potatoes, you name it. That being said, this is why I bring this up. And one more example, just to leave y'all with something. Even the Dominican Republic, which a lot of people never speak about, the Dominican Republic was founded by Dominguez, who was part of the German Dominican friars. Take a look and look it up. The German Dominican friars, which were Europeans. There's a few people in these islands that are actually from Spain. They're the remnants and the DNA or whatever, but everybody else is mixed. Everybody. To mention that you are pure or whatever, and you come from these islands or these states, especially Mexico, or Mexico's history. Mexico is Mayan and Aztec. These are Indian folks. Warrior people that built pyramids that still sit to this day. I just watched a video not too long ago when this woman walked up to one of the pyramids in Mexico, and when she came back down, they was throwing juice, water, and everything else at it. Any of y'all seen that video? Come from warrior people. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you acquiesce into being a step and fetching and a shoe shiner and a kiss ass, I'm going to continue the story in a second here. It's something different from me. So this kid, when he gets to me and it's time to ring me out, all of a sudden he has an attitude. We both from the hood now. So he's got to talk to me in hood fashion. We are a challenge because you are a man that is the same. Well, you're not the same as me, but you're the same color as me. So you know every day when you walk out the door, the same things that I come up against, you come up against. And the way that you patronize that and the way that you set the example for that is those same things and tenets and brick walls that I come up against, you now want to present to me being a person of color. What do I call you? What do I call you? Oh, I call you a tap dancer. That's what I call you. I call you a tap dancing coon. That's the real coons. The real coons, even though they're there too, are not necessarily in the House or the Senate or whatever. The real coons on the daily life that you walk past every day. This is the person that wants to start trouble with you and they the same color as you just because you're there. I have it happen to me all the time. I'm going to tell y'all a quick little story what happened to me just today, and it's going to blow y'all mind. As I'm sitting right here as I am, before I showed up, I had been here and I was practicing singing. All right, I was practicing some new songs. Y'all know the deal. Thank y'all for liking that video or whatever. But that wasn't me singing. That was somebody else singing. I didn't know I was recording. But that wasn't me singing. Y'all know I sing way better than that. But I appreciate everybody who liked the video anyway. That's my man right there. Shout out to him. But and that's those shots at him. But anyway, long story short, this kid was giving me every bit of attitude that he possibly could based off the fact, no more than the fact that, hey, he believed that because we were the same color, that it was his solemn duty to disrespect me in front of other folks. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, yo, what's wrong with you? Who raised you? Who put you in that situation where you would actually think like that? And this is what I'm asking to myself or whatever. So y'all know me. Let me just finish this story before I get into the other one. So y'all know me. I told this kid straight up and down, I said, listen, first thing I asked him, I said, how old are you? I said, are you 18? He says, yeah. I said, kid, listen, slow down before I crack your skull open. Do you see how big I am? And this was a little fella. This fella, he was like 5'4", you know what I mean? And I'm like, come on, son, I'm 6'3". You're not gonna win this. You know what I mean? He calmed down then. But it wasn't the fact that that was the first time I had to do that. That was like had to be the 8th, 9th time in a week. And I started saying to myself, I said, well, you know, I have problems, and I have white folks that sometimes will walk past me, say something snide, or say something, you know, condescending or whatever. And, you know, I've garnered myself to expect that. And I'm gonna get into that segue in a second, so stay with me, y'all gonna love this. So I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, you know, all right, that's cool. But when somebody black and Latin does it, and I'm like, well, what are you, a troublemaker? That's what you do for a living? You run around, start problems with your own people? You know how hard it is out here and how things go, but you prefer to go out and start problems with your own people. I got you. So, and I'm gonna get back to Harvey Weinstein in a second. So what I want to segue into is this. Before I started this live, I was sitting here and I'm cooling. I was sitting here probably for a good, I don't know, couple minutes, practicing singing, having my coffee. Guys, make sure you donate the $ STRINGERBELL80 also if you like any of the content, or if you just want to get me a coffee. Donate $5 sometimes get me a coffee. It's kind of chilly out here. I'm a little bit away from home. I would love to get me a coffee. I'll get into that Cashapp stuff and all that in a minute, because I'm going to do a separate live on that real quick. But this white man walks up to me. And where I'm sitting at, y'all can't tell where I'm sitting at, but he walks up to me. And I seen him out of the corner of my eye when I was practicing singing. And when I sing, I draw a lot of attention. People, they crowd around, they want to hear me. They want to hear if I can carry the whole song out, whatever. You know, I'm going to expand my performer. So I was cool with that. So I was just trying new songs that I had never tried before or whatever. And the whole time, I'm peeping this man out the left end of my eyes. And I'm noticing he's paying attention to me. I said, well, maybe he just likes what he's hearing, you know, whatever. As I'm in mid-song, and I think I was covering Michael Kianaga, he starts walking towards me. And I've already positioned in my mind, this dude's intentions is to come over here while I'm in mid-stride in the song and interrupt me. And like clockwork, I wasn't wrong. I can smell him from a mile away. So automatically, the first thing I do when I see somebody doing this, because y'all done seen me, listen, I still go into New York. You know what I mean? I woke up every morning in New York, all right? 5th Avenue and the Bronx. So, and it's a very different experience waking up. A lot of people think it's a different experience waking up in the Bronx. Not where I lived at in the Bronx. I lived in a nice section of the Bronx. It's more of a problem in Manhattan, believe it or not. Midtown Manhattan, yes, everything's over there. The Gucci store, all that crap. It's more of a problem in 5th Avenue on Manhattan. Because what happens is a lot of the homeless folks and a lot of the mentally ill, they come up there because they pride of people or they figure them as being weak. And what they find is those folks ain't weak. and matter of factly, to keep it a buck with you, most of the time when they did behavior like that, they got a pass in the Bronx. They don't get a pass in Manhattan like that. Oh, these folks in Manhattan will take you down. Trust me. So, as I'm sitting here and my spidey senses is on, you dig? He starts walking closer and closer and closer to me. So as he's walking up to me, I'm still singing. I stopped singing because this dude has stopped right in front of me. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. And what you got to pay attention to is this. Whether I'm doing this live right here, which I've had 2 or 3 people try to do that as they walk by, stare me down, to try to interrupt me. I had one man, y'all couldn't even tell. I did my hand like this. I said, no, you see me talking. They will do this to try to interrupt you or whatever. I get kind of used to it because I'm a vlogger, so I move around a lot, so it don't matter. But the problem I have is, a lot of the times is when you do it intentionally to break my peace. And that's exactly what I said to this man. I said, you're interrupting my peace. Can you get away from me? Now, the first time I tell you to get away from me, that means don't hesitate. Don't sit there and wait for what's going to come next, because what you got preordained in your mind. Like I told you, I used to be a criminal. I was a real criminal. I wasn't one of these guys, yo, I'm the hardest dude in the block, and all that. No. We would really shoot you. I got 2 guys, including one right now, that's still in jail. He'll probably be in jail for the next 10 years. Shout out to Panna for 2 bodies. You know, I didn't play around with no joking guys, and the newspaper articles will display that very vividly for you. You can look me up. I said to myself, I said, you know what, you would have to be a fool after the first time I told you to get away from me, because you don't know what's coming next. And I think he was kind of taking the ray because I was sitting down. See, a lot of people, especially when you go into restaurants, I've noticed, I mean, not restaurants, but coffee shops and stuff like that. Some people believe there's this invisible moat right there, you know, full of water and quicksand. And if you cross that and try to get at them, you may sink into the hole. I'm not worried about sinking in the hole. That's where you can't be mistaken. So this guy, he comes up, and after I tell him 3 times, sir, kindly get the heck away from me. I don't know you. I don't trust you. You don't have a mask on. You could have COVID, and you're like right here with me, talking to me, to a man that you do not know. Second of all, I have to question your sexuality because of your prevalent tone and consistently want to talk to another man. You want to talk to another man that bad? You want the attention of another man that bad? So I knew something was off with him. So he said something to me that's smart under his breath the first time. And I believed he called me an asshole. I let it go. He walks about 3 feet off from me and calls me another name. I said, what you say? He turns back like I'm a retard. And you got to be aware of this. White people, they play this a lot. Certain types of white people, not all white people, but a lot of white people, they play this little brain game. And you got to catch it. If you don't catch it, you're not aware of it, it'll right past you. And he says, oh, I said, God bless. I said, that ain't what you said. I wanted to see if he was going to tell the truth. But no, he said, no, I said, God bless you. I know damn well you didn't say, God bless me. What you said didn't have enough syllables to equate out to God bless you. First of all, you said one word, which you called me a motherfucker this time. So when he called me a motherfucker, I got up. I said, what the fuck did you say? And you saw the fear of God come in his motherfucking heart. Because now you see how big I am up on your little small ass. You little small, frail man. And so I wanted to conveniently let him know what can happen when you go around and you mess with people that you don't know. So I insisted on choking the fuck out of his ass. He moved my hand or whatever, and I looked him right in his eyes and I told him, watch who you out here fucking with. You know damn well I don't look like I need some socks. I've got keys in my hand, because that's what his intent was, asking me if I needed some socks. Now follow me, y'all. He wanted to give me some socks, or he wanted me to buy some socks from him, one of the two. So I sat there and I looked at this man. After whatever had happened, he walks off and goes and gets in the car. I have to offer me some free socks. A car that looked like it wasn't that old, little car, high schooler car, but a car nevertheless. So he gets into his little high school car. That's why I call little cars like that. Lamborghinis, Porsches, Bentleys. What else y'all want me to throw pictures up with me around in or whatever? Like, it doesn't matter. In different states, I can do it for you. I've done it now 3 times now. Don't talk to me about cars. I'll embarrass you. So he got into this little high schooler car, because that's what I call little cars like that. That's cars that high schoolers to college kids drive. Don't no grown man drive no car like that. That clown car. You driving a clown car. That's a car built for a woman. Same thing I talk about with a lot of these guys. When you driving them Benzes, that's a C-Class, that's a woman's Benz. You driving a CR10, that's a woman's Jeep. You driving these little ass motherfucking little putt cars or whatever, those are women's cars. Those are meant for small women and maybe one child. They're not meant for grown men. They wasn't engineered for grown men, and you were driving a woman's Jeep, car, or luxury vehicle. There's about, I think there's 4 Benzes out there that are made specifically for women. C-Class being the leader. That's why when I see somebody in a C-Class, I'll be like, man, if you don't get that 2004 refurbished Benz out of my motherfucking face. But anyway, but you paying $139 a month for, you ain't fooling me. I got money before. You understand what I'm saying? I got money on top of money. So you ain't gonna call up on me and act like I'm just some ordinary Joe and I can't see right through you that you driving a little clown car right now. Like you on some tier of society driving a clown car. But that's another story. So as I'm looking at this man, I watch him get in his car, pull off or whatever. But you walk past 4 other people on your way out. How come you ain't ask them if they want some socks? No, because your intention was to come mess with me. And you thought you was gonna get away with it. And I showed you something different. I have to do that at least 3 to 4 times a week. White men, black men, Latin men, women too. And the shit bothers me because it's like, I know my temperament. I know how I am. Like I say, again, 5 years ago back in the game, indiscriminately, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. I'd just pop you and get the conversation over with. I'm not worried about your fucking family. I'm not worried about your kid you got at home, your wife you got at home. I might not get you the fuck out of here, but you definitely gonna remember that you had an interaction with me. And the biggest thing I always had going for me, even when I was a kid, was the way I look. I can't help the way I look. Nobody can. But your assumptions and presumptuous tones is gonna get you fucking hurt out here. Now, I'm not talking about me personally, I'm talking about in general. It is not a good idea in the world that we live in currently to go around just popping in folks' faces acting like you that dude. Because what's gonna happen is sooner or later, you're gonna run up on the wrong one. Now, I'm not no tough guy, I'm not no, I'm none of that for the camera. But what I will tell you is this: I've been in presence no less than 15 times in my lifetime where I've seen the tough guy or the goofy that wants to run around get delivered in all types of forms and fashions. The reason I bring that up is not because it bothers me. It didn't bother me per se. I don't get bothered by silly stuff like that. But the reason I bring it up is you got to watch who you're messing with, You got to watch who you're dealing with. You got to watch who you give long gazes and stares at, especially now today. A lot of people are on edge. So I don't go around messing with people. I don't bother people. In general, I'm very respectful of people. I speak to people. I got people that live in my building that I know for a fact are straight up racist. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm half Latino. And they straight up racist. They just don't like negritos. They don't like negros. Y la toda. If they were living in the alley, they don't like the negritos and the negros there. And that's fine. At least they fake speak to me. I can live if you fake speak to me. You want to fake speak to me? That's fine. I can smell that a mile away. When somebody fake, you know what I mean about when somebody fake speak to you? Oh, hello. I'd rather you not even speak to me. Don't fake speak to me. It's insulting to my intelligence. But I'm going to leave that story alone. Guys, that's been my time. I just want to tell you guys, I appreciate all you guys that returned, all you guys in the past 2 weeks that have been here rocking with me. I have been sick, and that's what I mean by that. I had a real bad cold. I fell under the weather, and now we're knowing nationally that the lady at the hospital was correct. It was a form of freaking the flu. I got a flu shot now, so I'm feeling a little bit more, impactful, if you want to say. And I feel more up to par, thank God for that. But yeah, it set me back. I know it set me back. I didn't feel the need to jump on here and push my Cashapp real hard or whatever. Look, I already know my Christmas is going to stunt. You know what I'm saying? I'm preparing myself for it. You know what I mean? And I know I'm going to be alone with it. You know what I'm saying? I know that Packages will be none. Presents will be none. And I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm more happy that I'm in a place. I'm more happy that I've got a decent apartment and I've got at least a few people I can reach out to, or a few people that will reach out to me and tell me happy holidays or whatever. I probably even got a few people that are planning or will donate or whatever. But if you haven't donated, it's $STRINGERBELL80. That's STRINGERBELL80. There's also a PayPal link in the description box, and also a GoFundMe link in the description box, and also Amazon wish list, which I don't care if it gets to me on Christmas or not, it'll get here regardless. You know, so if you guys want to pick something of that out, I'm actually going to revitalize and revisit that later on tonight or whatever. I've also taken the advantage of heading to a different spot, which I'll put y'all on. I'm actually doing pretty well there, so it actually surprised me based on the material I have, but we'll get into that later or whatever, and I'll give y'all this some details on that. But yeah, we're not going to totally take everything off of YouTube, but I've got to start planting my feet in other places for 2023. I feel like 2022 was successful for me as far as the channel is concerned. We grew in viewership exponentially more than I thought. I think I was at like 4,000 or something like that for the beginning of the year, and now we're up to close to damn near going into 13,000, 14,000. You know, so that's exponentially way better than what I was at a year ago. So I want to thank everybody that's a new viewer, everybody that showed up here repeatedly over the 2 years now. It's now been officially 2 years, starting 2023. And I'm tossing a lot of stuff aside as far as, like, you know, what I have been in the past, and, you know, reiterating that and reliving that over and over and over and over again, which I do many times. Sometimes you guys don't even know. Sometimes I get nervous just under the inquisition that in the back of my mind, hey, I could lose it all again or something like that. You know what I mean? It's a very scary feeling to have. But I want to thank all y'all, you know what I'm saying, for checking me out or whatever. It's not all about cash apps and PayPals and all that or whatever, but this is how I planned on making my living. I see so many other people do it. I know a lot of people that monetize by YouTube with AdSense. I have that option, even though I don't utilize it. And what I mean by I have that option, I'm actually put up the letter and the numbers that I have to enter in, and I automatically become, you know, what's the name. But what happens is I'm regulated to putting up a certain type of material. So I can't have conversations with y'all about Meg the way I want to naturally. I have to switch it up at that point. Well, you know, with Meg Thee Stallion, what I specifically think is going on with Meg is she's having some type of trial and error in her deposition, and her, you know, I'll have to start talking like that. Y'all don't want him to talk like that. So I try to rely on the people and the culture or whatever to support the channel, whatever. And sometimes they come through, and then sometimes, you know, it's a long time when they don't. And that's that part that bothers me, because I'm like, I see people that are literally superstars. I hate to say this, but I gotta say it again. I mean, like, they're touring people that are whatever, and I'm not trying to knock them, not by or hate on them or anything like that. But I'm just pointing out the obvious, and people will donate $50, $100, or whatever to them. And I've had significant donators like that too. Somebody just recently, a little while ago, donated $200 to me. You know what I'm saying? So I'd just like to see more donations for that or whatever. I think I'm consistent, even though I've been down for the past 2 weeks. It was all because I was sick. I mean, I can't do nothing about that. And if I need to take 2 or 3 days to get myself right so I could deliver content to you, give you guys stories that most people, they don't even touch on. I've got to be in an era where I am healthy, you know? None of you guys, I hate to say it like this, you know, none of you guys, even when I was sick, are going to help take care of me or even hit me up. I had one person that hit me up consistently. Shout out to Miss Foster out there in Chicago. You know what I mean? And that's it. You know, I didn't have anybody really hit me up and ask me, hey, you all right or whatever. So I know, you know, the angle as far as, like, how can I say, the personability when it comes to followers and all that stuff or whatever. And some people, they just, you know, they literally don't want to see you come up, you know, like, that's really what it boiled down to sometimes here on YouTube. There's certain vloggers that are telling the truth. I mean, if y'all really want to keep it a buck, I had a guy last night, he put it on an old video and I caught it. And I took a screenshot of it. This guy put right up under my Cash App, he put in the reply his Cash App. That's the 5th, maybe 6th time I've had somebody do that. And the reason he did it because he saw so many views on the page. I'm speculating, I'm guessing. And I was just like, what a honorary, this nasty, despicable person to do something like that. When you see somebody and it literally says on that post, this is how I make my money. Here's the Cash App, here's the PayPal, you know, and it's just, it's crazy when, and when I went to his page, he was black. He was. I hate to say it, he was black. The last 5 or 6 people that I went to, they were black too. And I'm not saying this doesn't happen to white people because it happens to whites too. But it's just sad when we know all this opposition and all the stuff we come up under in the current living environments and all that stuff, and nobody just, I don't know, it just really bothers me. It makes you say as a vlogger, I ain't trying to get on no sad shit, don't feel sorry for me or whatever. I'm not even gonna do an incentive this week to get people to donate to me. I'd rather you don't, because then you'll turn around and say to me, oh, only reason he went hard, only reason he went this week or whatever, because he want donations. No, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I think eventually what I am going to do is I am going to partner with Google. That way I can see me a consistent income. This is what I do. And I won't have to rely on the people per se. What I will warn you is, once I do that, these stories that you see now, like about the Jews and, you know, things they've said, and stories like, you know, blacks and things they've said, and Latinos and things they've said and done, or whatever case may be, you ain't gonna see those stories no more. And the reason you're not gonna see those stories anymore is because of pure simple fact, I'm not allowed to give those stories because YouTube doesn't allow you to do that. You do that, they won't monetize the video, you won't make any money, or whatever the case may be. So we gotta now make all material PG-13. You know, and I don't wanna do that, but that's what it's looking like. So, like I said, there's no pressure to donate to me. If you don't want to donate to me, then don't. That's fine. If you enjoy the material, go ahead. But the material will be changing in either January or February. Because I cannot start out, like, I don't know how to make y'all guys explain it, but, you know, there's a lot of different things that I could have done this summer, and it just would have included participation of you guys, and it just wasn't there. These are some of the same people that talk to me in the chat room or whatever. I've got people on this channel in the past 2 years of seeing me vlog and have not even donated $5 to $10. So, you know what I'm saying? And they have the nerve to chat at me in the inbox, or they'll chat at me in the comment or whatever. And that's all nice. I don't hate you. But I will see some of these same people. I even saw one person in particular, I gotta talk about this. I saw one person in particular, they were sitting on a page rallying for a certain individual who a lot of people would call a liar. I'm gonna say that. And they were like, yeah, make sure you donate to him, make sure you donate. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, they were writing this in the chat. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, how come you don't do that on my page? I can use that support. I can use that what's the name? And I'm consistent. There will never be no more than 2 days, maybe 3. And you can look, go through, just hit my name and hit videos, and you will see there's never a point more than tops. I think one time I had 3 days or 4 days that I didn't upload anything. Anything you see after 7 days, that's because I was banned or I had a strike. I can't do anything about that. But I don't know. It's becoming very discouraging. So, you know, if y'all wondering why I fell back and I ain't been going live like that and all that stuff or whatever, that's why, you know. There was times, some people could tell you, I used to come in and do 3-4 hour lives. Shout out to the Angry Man too for bringing the same thing up. He said, yo, I'm doing 3 to 4 hour lives and I'm not even seeing anybody contribute, but I go over to, you know, your favorite vlogger and this person's not talking about anything. They're really just regurgitating the news. Like, that's it. And if you're just regurgitating the news, just throw up the clip. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing else to talk about. You know what I mean? I mean, you could give your opinion, you could give your suggestions or whatever in a separate upload or something like that. But after that, I mean, there's really nothing to talk about, right? And, you know, this is what people will, and I hate to say it per se, but mostly people, and I'm not trying to shame anybody, make anybody feel bad, but this is what mostly African Americans and Latinos, this is what they thrive for. If you're not talking about something that's negative or criminal based, or this, you know, are making a mockery of your favorite celebrity that happens to look like you, they don't want to give you a dime. And what they're regulated to is, oh, he telling the truth. He telling the truth. Telling the truth, how do you know? You know, especially if you're a viewer and your work history has been McDonald's your whole life. How do you know what happens in the music industry, film industry, or anything outside of suggestion? I've had people, and I've seen people boldly lie and say, oh, I heard such and such as this, I heard such and such as that, or matter-of-factly say things or whatever. You know, and it's hardening, because I'm like, yo, you're talking about your own people online, and for some reason or another, you think only your own people see these posts. And the people that are not your own people that are seeing these posts, they're finding a way to put you in a category and say, oh, well, we're not messing with this one, or I'm not bothering myself with this one for whatever reason, you know? It's saddening, but this is a reality that happens now. And I don't know what to say about it, I don't know what to do about it or whatever, but one thing I won't do is, I won't make my channel here on YouTube all about gossiping, hip-hop blogging, and this all that consistently when there's nothing coming out of it. I get nothing talking about, or the culture gets nothing out of me talking about Master P and what's going on with his son. The culture gets nothing out of me talking about what's going on with Gunna and YSL and Young Thug. The culture gets nothing out of me talking about who's sleeping with who this week and who ain't sleeping with who this week. The culture don't get nothing out of any of those things just mentioned, plus added on whatever else you could conjure in your mind. Culture don't get nothing off of that. What the culture gets is more problems based off that material being saturated between all these so-called hip-hop bloggers, when most of them never been into hip-hop a day in their life. Never had the job, never been in the building. I ain't never seen half of y'all on the trips with us or around there. And when I say with us, I don't mean riding on the plane or riding in the Suburban or nothing like that. What I mean is, I've never, like, if you go to certain events like Memorial Day weekend, All-Star weekend or whatever, what you'll find is year after year after year after year, and I'm sure it hasn't changed, just the players and the faces are different. You know, you'll find the same consistent people year after year after year after year. It never fails. And so when I learned out of this because I met friends that I've had for a long, long time based off this, because I used to see them year after year after year. Oh, you back down here? You know, and they from this place or that place or Georgia or Atlanta or wherever. And they would come down Memorial Day weekend down in Miami. They would be at All-Star, wherever that was being held for that year, or whatever else event we would be at. And so I began to know the faces, if not by first name. First time I ever met Trinidad James was in Miami. Still Memorial Day weekend. I remember him saying at the time, he was promoting his song along, what was that, Collins? I think he was on Collins. He was promoting his song on Collins Boulevard in Miami. And I remember specifically, the man handed me some literature and said, yo, B, this is my new single getting ready to come out. It's got to take over, blah, 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 blah. And I looked at him because of the way he was dressed at the time. And I said, yeah, all right, that look wasn't as popular as it is now. You know what I'm saying? Like where you got the 21 Savages and, you know, all these guys dressing the way they dress. They wasn't dressing like that really. Everybody was still on their, you know, fitteds and all that stuff at the time. And so you barely see somebody wear a fitted cap anymore. Not in hip hop anyway. So I was just amazed by the amount and the saturation of bloggers that have never been in the music industry talking about the music industry, and people donating to these people because they're talking against the music industry, not the ideals of the music industry, but just talking against the music industry. And I'm like, yo, and basically the drum beat is death to all Negroes in the music industry. You know, it's like, it's freaking crazy. Do you think everybody in the music industry really had to make some type of sacrifice or kill someone or murder someone or they did malicious things to get to where they are? No, that's not the case with everybody. I can point out probably 20 to 30 people that's not the case with them. Now some of y'all can say, oh, they from the old guard. Okay, well, cool. Well, they're not about that. And these men are still some of the same men that will hold the door open for you and embrace you coming into the business. I have 2 of them right now that on a weekly basis let me come to their cast and basically have free range because of one particularly how he knows me, and the other one just based off association. You know what I'm saying? And I'm never malicious, but I notice that the same people that I'm talking about right now come into those spaces and they do the same thing in the comment section. They're like, oh, how he know? You sitting there talking to the ex-freaking marketing director and head of promotions in the chat room talking about who is he? Who he's supposed to be? You don't know our business. You don't know the players in our business. So it always makes me upset when I see these people and they're taking cash apps from people. I'm like, give it to somebody that's actually been in the business and trying to reestablish their life or whatever. You know, that's why I took off of, when 50 Cent was beefing with his son. He was like, can you reestablish your life for $6 grand a month? I said, yes, I could. I could do it with $4 grand a month, you know? And some of these vloggers that have never been in the music industry a day in their life, this is the money they're seeing. And I'm like, how? How are you seeing 2, 3, 4 grand a month? And the only thing you're doing is regurgitating what's in the news. You're not offering anything new. You're not offering anything theory-based. Only thing you're offering is your suggestions based off the way that you think and you perceive and your presumptuousness of how the business operates. And it's not the truth. I even heard Puff just not too long ago come on one of the, I forgot who he's getting interviewed by. I think it might have been Power 105. And he said the same exact thing, damn near like me, word for word. Y'all think y'all know what's going on in the music business and y'all don't. Most of y'all can't even tell me the details in an iteration of 30 different variations of what a musical contract is. You can't tell me the language in it. You can't tell me, you know what I'm saying? What it entails, how many percentage points, how many points. You can't tell me that. And so when I see these guys, and like I said, this is not me going for a blast here or anything like that, but when I see these guys, they talk about the music industry and they talk about people in the music, it just upsets me that the people are actually ingesting this. And like, yeah, sure, that's such and such. And y'all never ask them one question. Have you ever been in the music industry? Just ask them that. This for the sake of anything. The next time one of your vloggers says something about the music industry, ask him, say, have you ever been in the music industry? And see what they say before you donate to them. That's all I'm saying. Guys, other than that, make sure you hit up the Cash App. If anything, make sure I get a coffee, all right? Make sure I get a coffee. That's $STRINGERBELL80, STRINGERBELL80. And like I said, I'm not going to be up on here, you know what I'm saying, asking people for Cash Apps unnecessarily. I'm not going to be up here asking people for Cash Apps because Christmas is coming. I already know it's already, listen, let me tell you something. People don't like me because I'm honest. They never have. And that's one of the stalemates that I have as far as, I don't know if you want to say fitting in with African American and Latin culture. I don't have to level myself on lies and matter-of-factlies and conspiracy theories to move me and launch me ahead. And they do. And the moment that y'all stop paying attention and stop giving y'all well-invested money to these people, and start giving it to guys, and I hate to say it like this, guys like myself and other bloggers, what you'll find is YouTube itself will change, and the real truth that y'all looking for, not this perceived, presumptuous tropes that these people put out, but the real truth from guys like me and other guys that are on here. Shout out to Big Face Gary, man. You know what I mean? Shout out to a whole bunch of other guys that are on here telling the truth that actually were part of the music industry. Big Face Gary was part of freaking Rockefeller Records in the early days. And you got people coming in this chat room like, who you supposed to be? Why are you asking for? Like, there's no black cabal that oversees everybody. And before that shit happened, I started running and gunning on all you motherfuckers. I swear to God, I'm never getting to the day of that. I'm never getting to the day of that. There's like this, I don't know what it is. It's like this black cabal. Let me talk about this for like 2 minutes, because this bothers me too. There's like this newly formed black cabal and Latin cabal of people that are online, and they're telling people, whether it's in the comments section or they're encouraging people when they're the vlogger or whatever the case may be, telling people what they can and can't say. Like we live in like communist Cuba. You're not going to tell me what I can say and what I can't say. And one of the main things that always upsets me is when I get a black person or a Latin person, they both do this, or Latinos don't do this, or blacks don't do this, or they speak matter of fact and be like, I had this motherfucker the other day. He said to me, well, black people don't swim. This is a black person saying this. And I said, well, what are you, part of the Klan? That sounds like something a racist white man would say. And he said this, and he's a vlogger. He said black people can't swim. Sir, I can swim. I lived in Miami. I live in freaking Connecticut, and at one point in time, I lived on the shoreline out here. You understand what I'm saying? I lived literally by, what the hell was the name of our beach? I'm trying to think of the name of our beach. It's been so long since I said it, because I would just go there. Ocean Beach. So I don't have to sit here and just like, you know, give people little tropes or whatever for the sake of catching some cash apps. I could care less, you know what I mean? Because like I said, people had a whole year to, I'm saying this on the going out because I usually don't get into the cash app side of the game or whatever. But there are certain people that have went out of their way to make sure I don't make it down on here, including people that, like I mentioned that gentleman earlier, that has been like the 6th time that he's come, like somebody like him has come on my page and put their cash app up underneath my cash app. Put in the work, dude. Put in the work. That's lazy right there. If you got a cash app up and you put it up under somebody else's page, and then I go to your page and I see you got 16 followers and you've been online for what, 7 years? I think it was. It's always those types. Been on for 7, 8 years, whatever, do the minimum of work, do the minimum of uploads, do the minimum of lives, all that stuff. And these be the ones that be online and they'll turn around and do the most insidious stuff that you can think of to bloggers that are bigger than them. It's not my fault I got all these people following me, but it's more important to me that I get to the point of this. How come people are not investing into this channel and trying to make it into something bigger than what it possibly could be? Because if you haven't been paying attention to me, or you haven't gone to any of my older videos and listened to what I said, not only have I predicted a lot of things that have happened, I've also ushered in a lot of things that have happened and a lot of ways that people were going to get treated. And people didn't believe me. They said, oh, he's just rambling, So the only thing I'm saying is to show me some freaking respect when it comes to this YouTube thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you show the others. Hit up the Cash App, donate something or whatever the case may be. I'm not going to be on here all this week doing this. So I just wanted to get it out now. And guys, that's my time. I spent 2 hours and 20 minutes with y'all. Make sure I get a coffee or something, man. It's about 30 degrees out here, but I wanted to make sure I brought my audience, whether you appreciate it or don't appreciate it, at least one dose of me or whatever. And like I said, after I see the reactions and there's more support on this channel, whatever, I will go live more frequently. But I just don't have 2.5 hours where I could be creating music or I could be doing something else or whatever. And after a year of trying and testing, quote unquote, my people, and just the response level has been so low, and I'm just like, not low, but just lower than expected based on the amount of followers I have. And I don't have fake followers and none of that shit. I don't have fake views. I don't have fake comments, none of that shit. You can click anybody on any of the what's the names that I have, and I'll guarantee it'll lead you to a page. I made sure to check that out on my own. I don't pay for anything, so I don't have money to throw away to pay for people, so you can get that shit out of the way. Somebody had thrown that on my page or whatever, said, how come there ain't no comments? Because they don't want to comment on the video, I guess. I don't know. You can't predict people's behavior. I was like, that's the silliest thing, especially when there's 3 other posts underneath it with tons of comments. I've got one video that's got something like, I think 700 and some comments that I put up like a month ago. You know what I mean? So they're there. You just hit my name, hit videos, and just scroll. You'll see. But a lot of people don't like to comment to me because they think as once they engage with me, that they're now obligated to donate to me or whatever, which is sad on their end. You know what I mean? Because I said before, and I made an announcement, I said, if you're not donating and you've been here for a year or so, don't comment in my chat room. And I mean that still to this day. Like, that's ridiculous that someone won't donate like $5 or something like that, $10, $20 or whatever, when I've had people donate more. I've had people come on and never heard of me in their life and just be like, hey, I found your channel. I had like, I don't know how many people do that now. Hey, I found your channel. I'm like, hey, thank you. I'm glad you did. You know what I mean? So there's some extraordinary people that follow my channel as well. But I'm just, if you're here on my channel, you'll know for a fact, my whole thing is, this is what I do. This is how I make money. I wanted to offer a product for Christmas. I fell back on that because I'm like, if these people won't donate, they're definitely not gonna buy anything. So why should I go and just, you know, spend all my time doing that? I may or may not re-release that or whatever after the holidays, maybe before the holidays, who knows, you know? But I need some encouragement. I need something to lift my spirits up because God knows I put a lot into this. I do a lot into researching. I edit the videos that I put up, which a lot of people won't do. A lot of people will just rip the video and just post it up. You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate, but that's what some people do. They don't even have enough ingenuity to do that. So I would just tell you guys, make sure you hit up the page a lot more often. Make sure you support the page a lot more often. You can do so at $STRINGERBELL80. That's STRINGERBELL80. Also, you can hit up PayPal if you don't have Cash App. Also, you can hit up GoFundMe if you don't want to use PayPal. Also, it's the Amazon wish list. I will talk to you guys a little bit. Based on the reactions, I'll go live again. If I see some donations and things like that, I'll go live again. I'll spend another 2-3 hours with you guys tonight. You have my promise on that. But if I don't, I'm falling back. I'm gonna watch a movie or something. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. And thank you for sitting with me.